The San Francisco Shock versus the Dallas Fuel. Oh boy, I'm hoping it's a good one. But I think the Des brings up some very reasonable points in terms of this. The Shock, obviously when we've seen Glister being played, he kind of redeemed himself in the series the other day. I'm not going to lie, towards the end, putting up some decent numbers. The Shock is... This is a team that obviously, it's such a rarity in sports in general, I suppose, for a team to be dominant for multiple seasons, like 3 seasons, the three-peat that we keep talking about, this dream coming live. Like, only the most dominant franchises in the history of sports are able to accomplish this. And it is the most competitive, arguably, that North America has ever been in the Overwatch League. Dallas Fuel looking so good right now. I mean, it's bound to be a good one, surely.
It has to be a good one. You have the defending champions from last year going up against the champions of the May Melee. I'm so excited to see what Dallas Fuel are bringing to the table. They have been such a creative team this year. They haven't been playing the meta, they have been defining the meta. They've been running their own stuff, partly because they don't have access to that fantastic long-range hit scan player that would have been on the team in Exi. So they've been forced to be creative. And those juices have been flowing. They've been juiced up all over the place. And Sparkle and Doha have come up with really unique ways of approaching every meta. Most recently in the June Joust, they've been playing a lot of the Genji Echo stuff. I am so interested to see whether that is something they bring to the table here, and whether there is, again, another meta where they can navigate their loss or lack of hit scan prowess to succeed.
On the other side, the San Francisco Shock, I mean, these guys are all star players, aren't they? And this roster, typically, when it gets fielded as well, more recently, has been the kind of the winning roster, I would say, as well. When you've got Striker and Nero as a DPS duo alongside each other, and Smurf and Choi Hyobin. The meta just kind of suits Smurf getting the play time as well over Super. So no surprises there. And I think Violent and FD God as well. Definitely getting that synergy built up as well with FD God coming into the team this season.
There are still some large question marks, though. What does the team play outside of the Moira Lucio Rush kind of compositions and the Violet playing Batiste? And do they have anything new in their pocket? And crucially as well, are they flexible enough to adapt their styles to counter the weirdness, the curveballs that Dallas Fuel are inevitably going to be throwing at them? We know this match is going to get crazy. The level of skill is unbelievable. The level of coordination as well is fantastic. And it's also a unique match because you won't find a team that plays the meta the same as the Dallas Fuel. And the Shock want revenge for last time, Brent. That 3-0 to knock them out of the main melee contention, the Shock have got to be coming into this one feeling hungry.
Absolutely. They've got so much to prove here, so much on the line. And if you look at like the standings at the top of your screens when we get into the actual game itself, you see the Dallas Fuel sitting at 3-2. Obviously, they're coming off the back of the May Melee as champions, and then the defending overall champions from 2020, the San Francisco Shock here. These teams are going to be evenly matched. I think the analysts actually predicted Dallas, I think, overwhelmingly, apart from Danny. Danny went with the San Francisco Shock, so I was aware when I was checking the segment today. But I think that there's a very real possibility that the Shock, a team that has been known in the past as well for being so good at adapting to weird stuff being chucked at them, always having the right answer to a problem in front of them, they might just have the perfect thing to try and match the Dallas Fuel here today.
It feels like a little bit of the battle of the brains as well between Krusty and Rush, the head coaches of both of these teams. Krusty's lost some of his assistants over the years. There's been, I don't know, what people might describe as a little bit of brain drain perhaps over on the San Francisco Shock, but everybody has faith in Krusty. And it looks like a complete mirror battle happening to open out Busan. These compositions, we've seen teams try and run them here on Busan. There's a large amount of poke damage coming through on both the Winstons.
Yeah, you can see the beam here of Nero just trying to basically chunk down any of the members. Big dive comes into the backline here by Smurf and using that bubble to cut up a lot of the damage. Sparker's trying to put a bit of punishment now into Smurf for leaping in, but back to the safety of their teams. No kills on either side. Fielder so close as well as Violet to these coalescences, and they're going to be traded out here on both sides, trying to use them to edge, but no one has gone down. Sound barriers from both these teams as well. You can see how evenly matched they are, but eventually something's got to give, and Choi Hyobin getting teamed is one of them. Taken out by the self-destruct as the bomb goes over, and out of duplicates as even more ultimates are expended. The San Francisco Shock tried to stay into this one, but it was Doha who sealed that team fight with the Death Blossom.
So many ultimates invested in that one. Such a slow, grindy kind of... It wasn't even that slow, honestly, Brett. It was just that every time one team tried to use an ultimate to gain an advantage, there was an ultimate being used by the other team to equalize that advantage. Coalescence traded, Sound Barrier traded, and a Primal Rage as well in there too. But throughout it all, Smurf and Choyobin were being peppered with a huge amount more damage than the Dallas Fuel's tanks were. Fearless and Hanbin not under the same kind of pressure.
Well, the boot comes out. Coalescence has been built up much faster than Violence. It might be an advantage here for the Dallas Fuel to work with. Sparkle goes down. Great peel coming out from the Shock as they just absorb the aggression, and now they're going to be going in with a Coalescence of their own, healing their team back up. You can see Smurf just trying to get a bit of work done. Not going to let Hanbin get that remet going as well. And a lot of ultimates now being utilized. The Sound Barrier on top to try and win out this team fight. Dallas are going to be looking to try and stall this one for as long as possible. Primal Rage being used. Again, the point, you've got to remember, still in control of the Dallas Fuel here, but ultimately, this team fight has gone firmly in the direction of the San Francisco Shock.
Fantastic work kiting the Coalescence that came out from Fielder early on, and FD got built up to a much, much faster Sound Barrier. You were talking about the Coalescence differences, but that didn't really end up mattering because Violet was able to retreat with the rest of the team and push back in with one of his own. However, the Sound Barrier difference made a huge impact in the fight, and FD God is already up to another 40% of his next Sound Barrier by the time Jexa gets to 1. He is on pace, but it does mean that there's a window here where Jexa has that advantage. The Dallas Fuel could just go for this.
Double support ults available. Coalescence is what they're going to be using to lead it in. Nero, look at him. He's trying to get a bit of a mark happening here, but the duplicate gets used anyway. Spark wants to stay back alive, and the Dallas Fuel are the ones who are leading. A great advantage at the start of this fight as they end up getting 2 pickoffs. Sparkle obviously has to commit that Coalescence. He's going to be fading out of the duplicate form soon enough, but just using it to try and clean up a couple of these straggling players. Shock, though, will be falling inevitably. They want to actually commit ultimates to try and turn this one. Coalescence. I mean, the Shock seem to have spotted something. Maybe the fight is potentially winnable. They actually get this Sound Barrier out of them, but Doha committing that Death Blossom. Surely that's got to do it. 2 kills for them. Points still not getting flipped over in their favor. The Shock are so good at stalling this one out. 91%, but finally Dallas Fuel going to be retaking this. Still the Shock are continuing to battle, blow for blow, but that's got to be an end to it, surely.
You could criticize the San Francisco Shock for using that Coalescence and pushing back in, but they got up to 91% and they forced out Jex's Sound Barrier, so now they can come back in with one of their own. It's a Sound Barrier against the Coalescence. This really just comes down to how they're able to get this engage off. Do they get a clean engage? Can they get value out of the Sound Barrier, or will the Dallas Fuel just kite and push back in with their own call? How ready are the Dallas Fuel?
Sound Barrier available, FD God. All eyes on him to try and save the team. They're going to be kiting back, yeah, the Coalescence from Fielder. And again, they're trying to absorb the aggression. Smurf gets dropped, yeah, the beat just a tad too late, but Striker doing his darndest to turn the fight around in their favor. Does get the 2 pickoffs. Again, Dallas, though, not going out without a fight. Fearless using that Primal Rage. Nero in the duplicate form. Has the remake available. Did a bit of damage, I think, to somebody there with it. And now he's going to be trying to put the pressure onto them. Double Divas on the field. So difficult to try and fend off the San Francisco Shock. They're bringing it to the overtime here. Violet with the Coalescence is going to be enough to try and mark down any sort of targets that might be remaining on the side of the Dallas Fuel. They desperately want to fight this one, but Sparkle will trade it out in the end. And this overtime is going to go down. Round number 1 going to the San Francisco Shock. How close and how even are these teams?
Yeah, this is amazing. Both of these teams running mirror compositions at such a high level, trying to disengage from each other and bait out ultimates, trying to push back in and get great engages, prodding pressure on tanks, diving backlines. It's all been there in just that first round. And the difference maker is that even though Smurf got dropped on that engagement, even though he died without the beat being applied to him, Striker came in with a huge impact. His Reaper changed the tide of that round and locked it in for the San Francisco Shock. When I would have said, honestly, Bren, that Dallas Fuel were ahead. I don't mean in terms of the capture percentage, but I mean in terms of which teams felt like they were more comfortably in control of the tempo. That's knocked things around. Yeah. And again, same mirror battle.
The teams are clashing immediately, not relenting in the slightest. And both of them are just trying to spot that one weakness. It's a battle of inches, essentially, just trying to find these tiny openings to capitalize off, because the teams what we've been seeing are so evenly matched. Neither side really getting chunked down just yet. It's a bit of poke on either side. His cooldowns are starting to get expended.
Sparkle
Troy just trying to take these slight off angles. Sparkle so low. Violet building up the coalescence, and it goes down immediately. He's trying to heal up the rest of his team though. He's kind of been split across. Doesn't get to use the coalescence for a lot of damage, and that is the opening that the Dallas Fuel have jumped on. It wasn't a great coalescence from Violet. He was trying to basically keep his team up the entire time. And the Dallas Fuel did a great job of just kind of pulling back and then engaging back in with their own ult.
They simply were not ready to fight with Coalescence there, and they had a worse positioning. They had taken enough early damage onto people like Striker and a little bit of chunk damage onto Choyobin as well, that they had to retreat. And that was such an awkward position for Violet to be in. When he uses that Coalescence, Striker's teleporting into his own backline to escape, and the rest of his team is not ready to engage. All sorts of discoordination.
Sparkle is using this duplicate just at this choke point, has built up this. Okay, the self-destruct comes through very quickly. Nero taken out of the duplicate form, and now Dallas leading it in with the sound barrier. That's going to be a lot of health on the board for them. And it seems like it's going to be an easy team fight win as well. The Shock are going to be going back to the spawn room, rethinking how they want to be fighting this one. They do have choice self-destruct to try and push into this one, but Dallas, Josh, look at the ults.
Yeah, so many to work with. They're going to be able to respond with Coalescences. Those can battle off against each other. And really, I'm taking a look at the Reaper ults on either side is what I was going to say. Up at the top there, though, Fearless pops his Primal Rage and is just scattering them to pieces.
Okay, Doe ends up using the Death Blossom. Everyone is so low on the San Francisco Shock, and Fearless with the Primal Rage ends up beating down Smurf, taking him out of the fight. Striker still holding on to this Death Blossom, wants to find an opportunity to use it, but look at him, he's being hounded by the tank line, and with that defense matrix in his face, unable to really utilize it. Dallas Fuel still holding a very strong position here, and they're going to try and cut off any of these players. Nero might get caught here. So low. Look at that peel come in from Choi.
80% though for the Dallas Fuel, and they're holding strong right now. It's this self-destruct as well. If they go for something aggressive off the back of this, if Hanbin can find an opportunity to scatter people, it's all about breaking up the core of the San Francisco Shock. Look how quickly they are to react.
They're taking so much damage coming through that choke point. Sparkle's going to be using this duplicate. Gives them a bit more fighting prowess on the point itself. Coalescence going to be utilized as well. Violet wants to try and keep his team back alive. Self-destruct's now coming out from both of these teams, or at least I think that's two self-destructs on the side of Dallas, but it will not matter. Striker is the one to close it out. That Death Blossom getting an immense amount of work done, as well as those Hellfire shotguns just ripping through the opposition. So finally, San Francisco Shock will flip this point back over in this round. It's the uphill battle now to try and take away the map from this point on.
They won the team fight, Brent, but at what cost? They used duplicate, they used double support ultimate as well, and then a Death Blossom to finish things out. Dallas just have all the tools they need to immediately flip this one back over. How can the Shock deal with a Coalescence and a sound barrier in their face? What can you possibly do?
We're about to find out. Coalescence is used by Fiori, as you can see. He's just trying to find a target, heal his team back up. It gives Dallas the positioning now. They're pushing across the point. Smurf, that is wonderful. The Primal Rage has completely separated and split apart the Dallas Fuel, but Doha wants to try and turn it around with the Death Blossom now. And he's already put in enough damage. That self-destruct of Choi might be clearing them off the point, but he's not going to be able to get remeked. The Shock, it is in their favor ever so slightly because they flipped the point over, but Dallas, they're winning this team fight, and it's going to be the overtime now burning. Only a single player left standing, and Nero will be falling, so the Dallas Fuel taking away this round, bringing it the distance in map number 1.
The Dallas Fuel had a much better understanding of how positioning works on that particular round of Busan. They were a lot better than the Shock at being able to manipulate around the center pillar, around the bus stop, I guess it is, and be able to put in a huge amount of damage. When the San Francisco Shock were attacking, they were getting scattered apart. Fearless's Primal Rages, sometimes Hanbin's self-destructs. It was very difficult for Shock to maintain their composure and stay as a unit. And these kind of compositions, every single piece of the team must be on the same page. You can't have, you know, a DPS flanking. You can't have an Echo and a Mercy like flanking around the side and doing their own stuff and taking duels in the air. This is one unit, one hive mind clashing.
Which team will get the edge? So far, these teams are so even. A lot of damage being pumped in. It's going to be the later bubble placed down there by Smurf. It forces the dive back here from Fearless as he tries to get back to the safe clutches of his team. The heal's pretty good so far. No one really falling too low, but now the dive comes through again. Nero just trying to pump in those sticky bombs. Coalescence is built up quickly. And it forces Nero to use this duplicate, but Smurf goes down as a result of it. Violet could not keep his tank up. Self-destruct trying to force them away. Will anybody fall? No, Doha just about dodging that one with the Ray form, and now Jexa using the sound barrier. Maybe they can get another pick off the top of this one. It is chaos, it is colors, but Doha ends up going down trying to teleport away from the self-destruct. Dallas is still in this though, despite losing a couple of their players, but Sparkle going down might just be the business concluding. Shock also committing this sound barrier into this fight means that they are in firm control of the situation.
Dallas will be happy about that. Neither sound barrier getting value in that fight. Jexa used his, but it just wasn't enough to be able to push against like an uphill positioning battle, because the San Francisco Shock just had them trapped in a choke point. Again, gaining information here, trying to see if they can tell which side they're coming out of. A little slow on the rotate from San Francisco. And now this fight is going to happen around the point. I'm wondering which team is going to get up to Coalescence first. It looks like it's going to be even enough that it won't matter.
Oh my goodness, Striker was so close to going down there. It's actually forced Dallas in. They're going to be committing the ultimates. Fearless wants to use his Primal Rage to turn the fight. Choi taken out. Smurf's got to try and clutch this one up. He uses the Primal Rage, but Dallas is still in this, healing their teams up, and Sparkle remeked up, flipping the point over for them. Now they're going to be trying to look to regain this high ground control. As both the divas of the Dallas Fuel just putting in a tremendous amount of work. Doha sealing that one as well with the Death Blossom. That's more than enough. So the Shock, okay, they recognize. Straight back to the spawn room once more. They do have some ults to work with here.
They do, but again, it's more about positioning. What you're trying to do with these compositions is that you're trading damage for positioning, or rather, you're trying to do damage so that you get better positioning, because the other team is forced to back off, otherwise they'd end up getting chunked down. Look at this, teleporting to the back, the Death Blossom again!
Oh,
they've been so good from Striker.
He has been Mr. Consistent this entire time. The kills are flooding from him. Look at that dodge as well for the remake. That is incredible by Striker. He's finding so many opportunities to just flex on the opposition. And again, he's going to be looking for this next kill as well onto Sparkle. He will find it. The Shock. What an opening there for that team fight. Flipping the point over eventually. Just going to try and get Doha away from them. There you go, building it up. Josh, I am just in awe at the pace from both of these teams and how close they've been.
Yeah, they are taking chunks out of each other. I love that teleport play by Striker as well to get through the choke point. Putting all of that damage there forces the Dallas Fuel to back off from the position or die, and Dallas chose die.
You don't even get an opportunity to catch your breath. Team fight continues. The Coalescence is used. Yep. Fielder looks to try and heal his team up, but look at the sound barrier. Will it be enough damage? Oh my goodness, there's so much chaos happening in close quarters, but Smurf surely is going to be able to get value there. The Primal Ranger catches Jexa. A wonderful kill for them. Self-destruct does push the Shock away for the time being, but they've lost their Lucio player. What can Dallas do other than just wait and bide their time? It's hard to find an opening here. It looks like they are just going to be waiting this one out.
But now that they have the speed boost, they have Coalescence as well. So this should be Dallas Fuel's best opportunity at getting in. San Francisco, they have to back off. Good kiting. Nobody's really been taken too low apart from Choyobin, but all of this positioning has been gained.
Oh my goodness. Doha with the 3K with the Death Blossom. Gets taken out by the bomb, but the Shock. It was a cutesy little effort from them to try and kite back with the speed boost, you know, avoid that Coalescence that was coming their way, but it's the heroics coming out from the DPS on either side that are really deciding a lot of these team fights. And now, Josh, when you've been bigging up the positioning aspect of this, Dallas Fuel just holding at this choke point now, looking for an opportunity to try and stop the Shock from even pushing in here. 70% in counting, the Coalescence comes through. Jexa goes down! He had the beat! Oh, that's going to be a brutal one. The Shock might be able to just press this advantage all the way to self-destruct over the top. Sticky bombs from Sparkle. He does get the kill onto Smurf. I think it's too little too late. 95% in counting. The San Francisco Shock looking unreal right now.
Well, there's the beat. It only catches onto a duplicated Moira as Sparkle tries to pull out the Coalescence. Can't quite manage it. Back into Echo form with only 100 health and taken out immediately. Though he does trade for Choyobin before the beat comes through.
what an unreal series so far. And Dallas, they don't want to give up. They've lost a lot of these players, but they're still fighting. The ultimate from Fearless. We've seen huge things from this guy with the Primal Rages. He's only going to be separating the supports away. So the Shock are not going to have that going for them. But Smurf goes down to Coalescence. Are you kidding me? Dallas surely can't be turning this one now. The overtime's still going. That's going to be the Self-Destructors. Nero with the remake damage. Might be able to get it. It pushes them away. The San Francisco Shock taking map number 1. But my word, did they have to fight for that. What a ridiculous series so far.
Electric beginning to what I'm sure is going to be a memorable series. That was a fantastic first map. And the Shock coming out proving that they want revenge. This is a fierce battle between these two teams, both playing at such high pace. One slip up, one mistake, and your team fight is completely lost. These are not compositions that can win 5v6 particularly. You have to have everybody on the same page, all playing at the same tempo. It's wonderful to watch. It really is. And the Shock come out with an early lead.
Yeah, absolutely incredible stuff. And we're going to be seeing on the other side of the break just what the Dallas Fuel can be doing to try and answer back to what the Shock are offering. So far, I mean, it's really living up to the hype. I am absolutely gassed for this series, and we'll see even more action on the other side of this. Don't go anywhere.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of the Overwatch League, and by IBM, the official cloud and AI partner of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back, everybody, from the break, and here's our power rankings with IBM Watson. As you can see, we've got Fearless and Hanbin obviously sitting pretty at the top, the winners of the May Melee. If you're wondering why Super's here, well, it's because this was taken coming into the week, and Super was obviously the predominant player that was playing on the San Francisco Shock for the May Melee. So that's why he's there. When this gets updated, we might see some of these rankings shift around, change a little bit. Yeah, it's been
Definitely
intriguing.
Yeah, it certainly has. And I mean, let's think about the San Francisco Shock a little bit more, because part of the reason that Super is on here is because the Shock didn't play yet in the June Joust until this week. So this is our first opportunity to really assess them. They played against the Toronto Defiant. They won a good win. Or rather, that was awful English. They managed to claim a good win against the Toronto Defiant, but it wasn't unbelievable dominance in every map. And part of the storyline for that game as well was Glister coming in, back for the first time since week 1. And here he is again, coming in for Striker as they move on to the next map, which is Dorado. And they've also got Twilight in too, so this implies to me that they're going to be running more Ana compositions.
Very interesting, isn't it? Yeah, Violet and Twilight. An embarrassment of riches is how we've described it in the past when it comes to the San Francisco Shock. But Glister is the storyline, because he really hasn't been having a good time of it in the games that he has been fielded. Now, he redeemed himself a little bit in the match, in the final map that he did play, but he's going up against the Dallas Fuel, and the competition is much stiffer. Now, granted, I don't think he's going to be going up against much long-range hit scan in the form of the Dallas Fuel. I'm curious about what they're going to be putting out here as we head to Dorado. And in fact, this map pool might end up working in the favor of the San Francisco Shock as well. Dorado is one where you do see quite a lot of those long-range hit scan characters, those heroes being played. And if the Dallas Fuel don't really have an answer for it, could be a pretty good win condition for the Shock.
Yeah, definitely. I'm also thinking a little more about the fact that we have the support line of Violet and Twilight in here. I'm wondering whether we're going to see Violet flex over and play stuff like Brigitte. That's my thought process. I don't know whether they're going to play the exact comp that they're hovering over right now, although it actually does look like it. They're on defense and rolling out. Okay, Smurf moving over to Winston. So this is very interesting. I was anticipating maybe more of like the BAP Brig kind of setups that we've seen the Gladiators run, but it seems like we're getting just full-on double bubble. Rewind the clock. Go for the May Melee compositions. You can't run the Tracer or the Sombra, sure, but you can still run a long-range hit scan and an Echo.
You can see from the lower third there, these teams have played 11 times in the past. They've never met on Dorado. It's the first time for it. And I was talking about the options. Oh my goodness, okay, that leap coming through. I don't know if that was intentional, but they baited around the corner. Look at that Glister. Take Sparkle's head clean off. What an entrance for a guy who we had so many questions for coming into this series. Certainly showcasing that, yeah, whatever ails him in the past, certainly not the case just yet in this series. I mean, the guy's performing pretty well, but this is a slow composition when you're running the double bubble. It's all about gaining that map control, slow and steady.
Certainly is. And slow and steady is not going to be really the name of the game for the Dallas Fuel, though, because they have a Genji and an Echo who are going to want to try and get value out of going for a bit more of a hard dive style of the double bubble. Whereas Shock are going to want to slow down the pace a little bit, do poke damage to the tanks, which is what they're doing so well there onto Fearless. He was going to look for an engage, but has to back off. Thankfully, no Zarya bubble was used, so they don't have to wait for a large cooldown like that. And Sparkle's only up to 40% of his ult.
Okay. Ultimates are committed, though. Nano Boost onto Hanbin, of all people. Just trying to get the picks there, but Nero, I believe, managed to do some dirty work onto Jexa in the back line, takes him out. Going to be traded, but yeah, you can see that this comp really does rely so much on the cooldowns, because Dallas is still trying to fight this one, but Nero putting up some huge numbers as well, getting a pick-offs onto the backline, essentially staggered out. He is going to get taken down, though, as Doha is going to be man-marking him off onto the side, onto the flank there. So a window of opportunity now for Dallas.
That is a large window of opportunity. Yeah, the Echo is down, Duplicate off the board as well, which Nero would have had up for this next engagement. So this is going to force San Francisco to use ultimates. First of all, the Infra Sight, which Dallas are going to want to try and kite. This buys time for Nero to get back in the fight with them as well. And things are going to stabilize a little bit here. Obviously, on the other end, we're looking towards the ultimates for the Dallas Fuel. A Primal to be able to engage, and then they also have Duplicate with, of course, the Dragon Blade from Sparkle. And we've seen what this guy's capable of so many times in the past.
A lot of pressure being applied. Then Anubis is coming out here. Smurf gets the pick off onto Doha, caught up into the choke point. That's going to be not ideal for them, but Sparkle's using the blade to try and turn this. He's been battered back. The bubbles are good, but look at that coordination. Cashing him into the side. Nero trying to make something happen here as well, as he might be able to bring down Fearless, who dove a little bit too greedily there into that fight. The grab is committed from either side. He's going to be catching up a bunch of these members, and ultimates are still being committed. Big Bionade catches on to Nero, keeping him out of the fight, but now Jackson coming in with the rally. Falling quite low, though. Needs to be careful in case he gets chunked down, but has the team to back him up. So it is that war of attrition. And so many things happen there. So many ultimates and abilities got traded out. But inevitably, here, the Dallas Fuel are the ones who are going to be able to capture that checkpoint A.
They were trying to punish Fearless. Choyobin in particular was trying to push forward and punish Fearless after he had been diving deep in the backline with his Primal Rage. And instead, Hanbin just found Choyobin, caught him in a grab, and wiped him out. That's a large amount of the damage gone for the San Francisco Shock. And to be honest, Bren, after that first pick, they've navigated Glister's threat really well. Dallas had to bust a huge amount of ults to be able to take checkpoint A, but they got it, and there's 3 minutes now on the clock. So if they can continue doing that, where, all right, they only have one opportunity when they build up the ults to do it, but if they can start closing these out, this map is going to slowly but surely make its way towards the finish line.
And Glister's playing such a dangerous game. Obviously, Sparkle playing a Genji is it's going to be one of the main threats, I think, to that long-range hit scan. Glister's just trying to take these aggressive angles, something that I think people were quite critical of, and he's found the opening kill there onto Doha. When Fearless went in with the Nano Boost, well, he's not going to be able to get any sort of kills with it, because Doha's usually the one who's going to be syncing up with him. He wasn't there in the fight.
Bubble used there from Hanbin just to get Fearless back into LOS with his healers. And Fielder, he has gone so weak talking about the healers. Fearless gets bashed up there as well as Nero, with the Nano Boost applied onto him, hunts for damage. But nothing really happening there for the Shock.
Both these teams doing such a good job of absorbing a lot of that aggression coming through. Sparkle taken out, though. Fearless wants to try and turn this one, but what a Bionade! I mean, that was a 3-man from Twilight, and he has set his team up for success. Understatement of the century there. I mean, that is just an instant win condition.
That was a fantastic Bionade, and also Glister finding 2 kills in the middle of the fight. A body shot onto Sparkle and a headshot, I believe, onto Hanbin just seals the deal. Not only did you have that Bionade, which is a huge win condition in itself, but Glister's popping heads from long range.
Yeah.
Take a look at the replay as the next team fight gets ready to set up. Here's where he found it from. Flank angle through the back.
Oh, it was so important for this guy to have a good game. Oof, and he's certainly showcasing it. Yeah, and he's finding these aggressive angles. Oh, and the Duplicate, whip shot off the high ground, pushed away. He's not going to be able to get back up there. The grab committed there from Choi, but Smurf is busy dealing with this pesky problem. The Genji Sparkle wants to try and take him out because Sparkle has the blade. The Nano Boost! The blade not being committed. This might just be turned around. Oh! Smurf tries to get out. What a shot from Glister! He's taking these such unorthodox angles, and they are just not ready for it. The high ground still being controlled up, and the damage, look at it. It's just being outputted from every single direction. And Dallas are left wondering, shaking their heads from side to side. How do they approach this particular problem?
Well, there's the answer.
Way.
Sparkle pulls out the legs. The Soldier 76 has been locked. He goes down, but at least that's some kind of threat, and Glister goes off the board just for a moment. Bren, I want to talk about that Nanoblade, though, that came out from Sparkle. He was a couple of health points away from killing Smurf and getting his dash reset, and he just didn't get it. Smurf had been able to hold on just for a moment, and then Glister lands this shot. Look at the angles he's taken. He is so free to do this kind of stuff because there's no hit scan on the other side. They need some kind of threat, and Sparkle's going to try and be that.
Oh, Shock going to be going in with a double Winston, though. Lay it in. That's going to be the grab from Hanbin to try and catch them up. But it's not enough to convert into the kill. And Nero, okay, he's built up the Primal. Just trying to remove Sparkle out of this fight, trying to practice up those Primal Rage mechanics, falling very low. Has to back off before the Duplicate fades. Dallas not out of this just yet. In fact, this Duplicate, will he be able to take him out? Yes, he will. Sparkle goes down as well. I'm not sure where Glister is on the map, but definitely putting in that consistent damage still. Dallas trying to turn it. It's going to be 2 kills on either side now. The Anubis finally going to be fading there. Fearless just trying to retake his breath, I suppose, onto the cart, just trying to divide them up as well. Violet solo has to shield bash away from this fight. Cart still being pressured up. Smurf falling very low. Backed off. What a whip shot from Violet as well. Fearless, he just can't get any value.
That's another one as well from Violet. He is finding enormous value in the team fight. And the San Francisco Shock, they slam the door shut in Dallas's face. Checkpoint B will not be theirs. What a defense from the Shock. That is phenomenal stuff. But it's all coming back to the core issue that Dallas don't have anybody to contest Glister. Fearless has his hands full. They're not playing Winston Diva. They don't have that extra tank that can go and pressure the Widowmaker. It's all down to Fearless, and it's just too much responsibility for that singular main tank. They need some level of threat on the map to be able to stop Glister being so free. The flanks he's taking, the positions he's going for, you'd never see that in a game where there's an opposing Widowmaker or an opposing Ashe or McCree or whatever.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely correct. We're starting to see, I guess, a wedge driven between the weaknesses of the Dallas Fuel in terms of like their composition and what they like to play. This is one of those times where we're seeing the Dallas Fuel. I mean, we've been praising them for taking these unorthodox approaches with their compositions, but the Shock have come in with a really good game plan, and I've got to give immense credit to Glister as well, the guy who's making it all happen. The guy who we were kind of thinking, is he going to be able to perform at the highest level against a team like the Dallas Fuel when we've seen this guy? I mean, he's been having some bad maps in the past, but comes in today. I mean, that was unreal. And a lot of it, just the space being created. I mean, that checkpoint B is so big, it's so wide, and it often felt like Dallas was scrambling at times. But now we're on the attacking side here, Josh. And it is a different ball game, I think, for Glister to try and take some angles when you're on the attacking side.
We also get to see the Violet Mercy. What a pick to start things off. Sparkle doing a backflip in the air, and he's sent 6 feet under. That is an opening pick if there ever was one. Violet Mercy, though, right? We've seen this guy play Brig in the past, but I can't really recall him playing Mercy for the team very often. So this is a new one in his wheelhouse. He seems like he's just playing everything this year. The McCree, the Echo, all of his normal flex support heroes, and now everything that a main support can play too.
Bubble committed. Smurf, again, just trying to create a bit of space, and he's made it happen. Nero, though, slept up onto the side. Took out Doha, but that's going to be an easy kill, traded out. But while they were focusing on that, the res comes through as Violet got Smurf back into the fight. Sparkle in a bit of trouble, has to just back off for a bit of heals to be topped back up. And now he's going to be looking to apply that pressure onto Glister, who's in the back line, make sure that he can't get those free angles that he's been doing in the past. Dallas leading in the fight, Jexa goes down, and the sleep dart onto Fearless. The nano boost is completely taken out of the fight. Glister with another one. This is ridiculous.
Oh my god! What am I witnessing? He's getting primal ranged around, and he's still finding value in the team fight like that. Okay, it's one thing to have a free Widowmaker on the battlefield. It's another thing entirely to be able to create this level of value, hit these kind of shots. Glister's popping off. Maybe all he needed was a little bit of confidence to be fielded multiple times, get his rhythm, and go up against a team where he feels like he's just being uncontested.
I said it in the past, Josh. I'll say it again. Widowmaker is such a confidence-based hero. You need to feel like you are capable of taking these shots, these risks, that you can hit these shots. You need your team to believe in you.
Brent, did he get past Sparkle? No, surely not. All right, now
Sparkle
information has been gained. Sparkle spots him. Sparkle, by the way, building up to his first blade of this defense. It's really tough to be able to play aggressively on the Genji like that.
That is so good!
Opportunity.
Oh my goodness, the grab onto the high ground, the bubble to split them up, but Choi is punished straight away. Hanbin ended up using his grab. Now Doha with the duplicate onto the Mercy. Might have the res available, but slept up out of it. Taking out the Bionade as well. And now the fight continues. Nero's built up that Primal Rage, and he's using it to disjoint the Dallas Fuel in this upcoming team fight. It's not over just yet, though. Trying to heal up Violet, falling very, very low. Sleep Dart's going to be whiffing there. Doha trying to turn it around, but Twilight with the tracking. The damage boost layer down. The shots are hitting. This is absurd.
Absolutely elite level play from both of these teams, but it's the Shock who are firmly in the lead when it comes to Dorado. Nearly a 4-minute time bank, and Sparkle would have to pull out something enormous here with the Dragon Blade for them to win.
no Nano Blades. They opt to use the Nano Boost onto Fearless to keep him alive. And in this fight, the bubble is good. Keeps Twilight up for just a moment. But as this was all happening, Glister, he moved over to the McCree when nobody was watching. And he's already got 2 picks. Sparkle down and out. The flashbang connects. This rally, it's got to try and keep the team up. But I think it is just inevitable. The Shock, way too dominant. Way too much of a firm and solid grasp in terms of how they wanted to play this one. Sparkle with the blade. He's got to go for some heroics, but the bubble will deny him of that one. And now as the store heroes come through, it is not enough to keep it going. The Shock are going to be taking map number 2 here on Dorado.
Choyobin and Twilight popping off there as well. Everybody on the Shock so happy that they're able to put forward what I would consider to be a statement map against the Dallas Fuel. Remember, folks at home, the last time that these two teams faced off in a qualifier for the May Melee, the Dallas Fuel came in an unexpected fashion, destroyed the Shock 3-0. The Shock are out for blood right now. They're looking to 3-0 the Shock, they're looking to 3-0 the Dallas Fuel in response. This is a revenge match if there ever was one.
And it's a familiar sight if you are a San Francisco Shock fan. You're used to winning. But against this kind of competition, against this caliber, I mean, nobody was really expecting this kind of performance. Obviously, it's not over just yet. The Dallas Fuel, more than capable of trying to bring it back. I mean, they've been put in these high-pressure scenarios before, and it's going to be interesting to see what they've got up their sleeves to try and answer back. But that map, I mean, it seemed like the Shock had every single answer. We're going to see on the other side of the break what's going to be occurring in this series. Will it be concluded or will it be continued? Don't go anywhere.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile. And by Xfinity, the preferred internet provider of the Overwatch League.
A new tournament means a new bracket is unlocked. And the first week of the June Joust, I mean, we said it before, I'll say it again, it definitely busted some brackets. But are you set to redeem yourself this weekend? We'll go to pick'em.overwatchleague.com to submit your picks for next week's matches. You don't want to be like Ilios and forgetting to set your picks, and then you start complaining about it on social media, being like, oh, I would have beaten all of you if I just set my picks. Like, it doesn't matter, mate. You forgot. So don't be like Ilios and set your pick'ems.
Yep. That's how you show your dominance over your friends that also like to watch the Overwatch League. You got to boast and brag. And then, you know, if you got them wrong, you just say, oh, I forgot to put them in this week.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you always have that excuse.
Exactly.
Well, let's take a look at some of the substitutions happening here, because the Shock are making a lot of them. It's a team where we've been confused sometimes by their substitution methods, but in this meta it seems to make a lot of sense. So Striker back in, FD God back in instead of Twilight again. So the common backline here of Violet and FD God, the common DPS frontline as well of Striker and Nero. We're back to their version of a roster that can play that Moira Lucio comp, Brent. That's what I think when I see this roster now for the Shock, is Moira Lucio, which is unusual. Maybe not the kind of roster that you would have previously associated with that, but they're looking really strong on it.
Yeah, taking a look at our leaderboard here as well. A lot of the times being set. I mean, the Shock are on here, Dallas Fuel are on here. I mean, 2018 was a weird year, wasn't it? You got records being set on either side. Yeah. Certainly was all over the place, but maybe... No, actually, I'm not even going to say. I'm not even going to put it into the air. I was like, maybe we'll see a record being broken today. But these teams, the truth of it being that they are so evenly matched when Glister cannot just abuse the fact that they don't have a long-range hit scan player. And Josh, you were saying in the break to me, you were talking about how important the maps are for this particular series.
Absolutely. It felt like Dorado was just a map where Dallas couldn't close the gap. When you get to big, wide maps like Dorado, where if you're trying to shut down Glister by jumping at him, by speed boosting, and by Winston leaping at his face, he can rotate. He can get to better positions. And also, there's a really long distance on checkpoint B for you to try and cover. There even is on checkpoint A as well if he's playing up on top of the archway. So any kind of map where Glister's going to be able to play like that, or whoever the hit scan player for the Shock would be if Striker picked it up. If Dallas Fuel are playing against hit scan players on those kind of maps, they are going to struggle. And for Anubis, though there are opportunities for that to occur, I don't anticipate it really happening, because you can't navigate around the defensive high grounds as easily as you can on Dorado. It's much more simple to punish a long-range hit scan in those kind of areas. But Dallas are running something really cool on defense here. We've got the Sparkle Junkrat coming out.
Yeah, a lot of damage, a lot of spam as well. We saw the Jake Junkrat came out the other day. An absolute classic. And this time the Dallas Fuel going to be opting into a bit of the Junkrat play as well. And it just provides you so much damage. The Shock, their composition, they want to be taking fights around the speed boosts, they want to be eating up the damage, but it's harder for them to find these windows when the spam comes through. But look at this coordination! Oh my goodness, Doha has been eviscerated. They dive, they pounce right onto the target. That's a great one. The res potentially denied 1 HP. Nero gets him. Eventually taken out though. Doha was back in the fight as Jexa did get that res off, but I don't think it's going to be mattering here. What a performance from the Shock.
Unbelievable coordination. That is a fantastic setup there. Going on to Doha and getting value out of Nero despite the fact that he doesn't have that Mercy damage boost to be able to pocket him. It's just all in the coordination, all in the timing. Gorgeous stuff. They understood exactly how they wanted to dismantle the composition that Dallas were running. And Dallas are forced to make changes. They need to move to a more mobile comp that can keep up with the pace that Shock are throwing at them. Sparkle's only on this because he has a Riptire, I think.
Yeah, and the tire can be a great deterrent for the Shock trying to basically pounce on any of those targets. Like we saw, actually, just to open up the team fight. Violet has this Coalescence, though, and we've seen big things from Violet as well. Might be able to get an opportunity. What a Bionade. Catches onto one. Choi is actually D-Mech there with the tire. Bursted down straight away, but that kill is what they were looking for. Fearless falls in the process. They did lose Troy as well, though, so going to be one tank missing on the field, and Dallas are just looking to stagger and stall this out. They bought enough space for this res to come up now as well, so Fearless back in the action, straight into it. The bubble laid down at the bridge. Doha with damage boost applied onto him. Well, he's got enough damage now to try and put a stop to whatever the Shock are throwing at them. The fight continues here, but the longer it goes, it is going to be better for Dallas still. Look at that punish! Doha taken out, and that's very good for them. Smurf now opting into using his Primal Rage to try and again push them onto the point, into a greater position. Nero, well, that's a duplicate onto the Mercy. You don't really see that too often, but he's built up the Valkyrie at least. He's going to be trying to put a bit of healing into his team, a bit of sustainability, I suppose, to try and keep them healed up. And now he's back into that Echo form, so we can start to take a couple of chunks out of the opposition. Still, the longer it goes on, the better it's looking for the Dallas Fuel.
They missed so much damage in that team fight because Nero was on Mercy. Nero wasn't even damage boosting at Smurf or Striker. He was just going for healing, going for sustain. And I've got to imagine that was a mistake there. I'm not exactly sure who he was trying to replicate. Probably just going for a Winston or a D.Va like you would see most Echoes opt for. But, you know, there are niche opportunities in which duplicating the support would be the right call, but I don't believe that was one of them. Nero almost caught again as they rotate through. He's just managed to escape with his life, but Smurf is also bionated.
They're not wasting any time. They won't actually dive into this because they've already got double support ults. And Dallas, oh no, they've been cut off here. The support line is decimated. Taken out early on. Violet now going to be using this Coalescence to try and heal up the rest of his team, but they've gained complete superiority in positioning over the point. Fearless goes down as well. Only Hanbin really to try and stall this one out, as Doha ended up using his duplicate onto the Moira to put up the Coalescence, and it will give them a bit more healing to try and at least put some bodies onto the point to keep this one going. But now the Sound Barrier to really try and stop them where they stand. Dallas still now getting the spawners though, and Sparkle, we've seen some great things out of his Death Blossoms, but that one's going to get ate up by the bubble that was laid down. Choi with the Self-Destruct as well. Nobody really played a point, but now the tank's going to be leaping back into it. The Nano Boost onto Fearless. This could be enough damage. This could be crucial. In fact, it might be enough to try and turn it. He's already choked them down, and chunked them down, I should say. Enough for Sparkle to really rip into them. And you can see the damage now being done, and finally getting some reward out of that with the ultimates being committed.
Unkillable Winston on the battlefield, creating space for Sparkle to come back into the fight and murder people. But I thought Fearless was going to use his Primal Rage at the end of that too, but he holds on to it, which gives them a really good ult bank for the next fight around as well. San Francisco's attacks have been really good, very decisive, but the time is ticking away and they only have a single tick. It's 2 minutes on the clock, just over, and the Shock don't look like they're in position really to convert on this next team fight. The only thing they have access to is a Coalescence. And look at the ult bank up for Dallas. This would require some big mistake, I think, from the Fuel.
Hanbin actually gets demeched here. Violet's still holding on to this Coalescence, waiting for a better opportunity. Sparkle to teleport. Could be massive from him. Death Blossom's committed because he's got the Sound Barrier, but he's being chunked through. Striker almost bringing him down, but the heal's way too much. He's got that lifesteal happening. Dallas getting that pick off, and Smurf being so low, eventually he's going to get taken down as well as Doha chases him with the beam. Dallas want these stagger kills to try and starve off as much time as possible away from the Shock.
Well, Brent, they traded 1 minute and a Coalescence for 3 large ultimates out from the Dallas Fuel. Right, they use their cold, they're going to have another one ready, so essentially it's only a minute off the time bank, and they got out the Primal Rage, the Duplicate, and the Sound Barrier. This is the Shock's best chance.
Certainly is. They got to do it now. Coalescence built up though, FD, or Fielder I should say. He's going to be healing his team back up. Going to be met with this Sound Barrier. The Shock are going to be healthy now. They can tank a lot of this damage that's coming their way. And now look at that Death Blossom. Fielder was not ready for it. Didn't have the fade away perhaps. Something got in the way of it, but 3 kills now going the way of the Shock. It's going to be the Wraith form as well to just dodge out of the way of that Self-Destruct. And Doha will not be present on this point any longer. 51 seconds and counting. The Shock trying to finish this with a bit of time in the bank, and they will do just that. 49 seconds is what they end with.
Very impressive performance from the Shock there. They had some nice pushes. The defense was still solid though from Dallas Fuel. Considering how quickly they lost point A and what a large time bank the Shock had to work with, they can still be fairly happy about that. It's not a disaster by any means. Although the big curveball that Dallas had coming into this map, the Junkrat, was dismissed immediately. And that, I think, is a worrying trend when we think about the Dallas Fuel in the June Joust overall, if we're thinking big picture here. Everything in this series has trended back towards meta. the Dallas Fuel have always been forced back to what the San Francisco Shock are running. They've always been forced back to trying to run mirror comps and the Echo. Even the Genji didn't really work when it came out on Dorado. It was getting shut down hard and wasn't an effective counter to the Widowmaker. So perhaps this is just a hero pool that Dallas are going to have some issues with. Or maybe as we progress throughout this series, they'll show us more and more creativity to be able to punch through this wall that it feels like they're hitting currently.
I said it when we saw the hero pools, and a lot of people disagreed with me, but I did make that point that I think that this hero pool honestly hurt Dallas quite a lot because they relied a lot on the Sombra Tracer kind of compositions. They can still play roughly what they like to do when, you know, you got Sparkle and Doha on some of these comfort picks, but one of the compositions that Dallas liked to play was that kind of rush-orientated style where you could combo up and sort of enable your main tank player with a Tracer play. That's not there for them, and you're seeing Dallas now, being forced to kind of like come up with answers without really all the tools at their disposal. Now the sides are switched around though, so the Shock are going to be trying to stump them here at this choke point. We've seen this plenty of times. The Shock are just opting into the mirror. They're not going to be going for any sort of cheese with the Junkrat or anything like that. Just going to be taking the straight up brawl, and
look
this
how
comes down
fast
to
Fielder is building coalescence
mistakes. Oh, this is ridiculous. Yeah, they're taking the damage, but no kills going the way of Shock. So this coalescence might be enough to crack it open, and here we go. It's unleashed. Fielder just trying to hose them all down once more. And look at that coordination, just pushing Shock into the corner. Violet goes down. He popped the coalescence. Oh my goodness, the boosters from Hanbin. That is what you want to see if you're a Dallas fan.
It absolutely is. Nero's doing his best.
What?
Nero really is doing his best effort. He took down 3 in that fight, and it almost looked winnable for a moment. I don't think anybody is going to be in position to try and recontest. Maybe FD God will try something. He's looking at it, poking his head in, but it doesn't seem feasible there.
Yeah.
That entire engage was all built off the back of Fielder building up his coalescence earlier than Violet could. The San Francisco Shock players just simply couldn't take the same level of poke damage. You have to do damage to Dallas to stop them pushing in and winning the fight. But if you do damage to them, it's converted into support ultimates so efficiently.
The Shock look like they want to take an aggressive fight here at the choke point. The coalescence is used. FD God has ults. Oh my goodness, the sound barrier almost getting blocked off there by the bubble, but just in time, caught it onto a couple of the members. So Shock's still in this one now. The duplicate also being used. Nero sends in the self-destruct. On the other side, I think Sparkle also doing it. We're seeing a lot of duplicated divas now, sending in those ultimates. Another bomb onto the point. Fielder going to be dodging that one with his fade, but being battered across the map currently. Death Blossom dodged out, Doha taking out Striker, but the Shock getting a lot of these pickoffs, and it is going their way for the time being, especially when the tanks are still up. It's hard to try and chunk through all of that health and armor.
It certainly is, and I think that was the major part there was what you noted, the Diva self-destructs all over the place. Specifically from Nero being able to split apart the Dallas Fuel. It's just devastating for these compositions. We talked about it when we were looking at Busan as well, but anytime you can crack this comp into 2-3 pieces and splinter off individuals, it loses a lot of its power. What is this?
Okay, the aggressive fade. Oh my goodness, Coalescence, they desperately need this kill on the Jexa. They will get it, but it's being turned around. Doha using the ultimates. Everyone is low though, the self-destructs. That does a ton of damage, and it's going to be wiping Sparkle off the face of the earth. Holy smokes. The Shock, this is what we've been seeing from them in previous years. That kind of initiative that they take where they find these openings. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you see in your gold ranked games. The DPS Moira diving into the backline with the fade. You don't expect to see it
but not with
here.
the rest of the team. Not with the rest of their team, and that is the crucial difference, is that the whole of Shock were prepped and ready for that engagement to come through. Violet can't use the fade when he's in Coalescence, so yeah, why not? Use it at the beginning. Here they go again. They look like they want to take another fast engagement, potentially off the Primal. They are just not allowing Dallas to get into position inside Dark.
Dallas are going to get in off the back of something here, and now here we go, looking for some kind of engagement actually. The duplicate comes out from Sparkle and Nero. Both players moving over to the Diva here, so they're going to be seeing even more self-destructs coming out onto the point. Both of them, look at this, every single time, and it's going to be splitting up the teams into multiple different sections of the map. Lots of little team fights that are occurring in a microcosm. We'll see if they can turn this one around though. Look at that, the ultimate Striker trying to even it out, but Dallas are looking really strong coming into this one. This Coalescence is keeping all of them up. It's going to take some magic now from them to try and win this one. Not probably going to be happening when Doha has that Death Blossom, forcing them away chunks them all down, and it gives his team the opportunity to cleave through the rest of them. Will anybody be able to touch this? Yes. Smurf gets on, and the Coalescence might keep him up, but eventually he will fall. You can never count the shock out, but with this sound barrier, that tool might just have enough fuel in the tank to try and get over the finish line.
I don't know.
It's so difficult to force the shock off, though, because they're getting the spawners back, Josh.
They're getting spawners back, and they picked Sparkle really early on. This sound barrier is going to close it out. That was a phenomenally well-played recontest from the San Francisco Shock. They came out of spawn, and there were 4 players waiting to jump onto the point as it got into the high 90%. They were waiting. They didn't want to block the point before then. And the kill onto Sparkle before Jex's sound barrier came through just changed the momentum of that fight completely. All of the damage was removed.
Absolutely absurd, honestly. I mean, that one tiny mistake on either side, and yeah, I mean, you see Dallas Fuel possibly just closing that out with a hefty time bank, but 94.6% is all they get. They try to re-engage quickly as well at the end there, but the spam coming out from Nero stopped them. And now you can see another attempt coming. The backline being pressured heavily, but Nero, I mean, he's found his target. D.Va again going to be duplicated up, just trying to build up the South Destruct. They've been so big in these matches, and there we go. Sparkle taken out of the duplicate form and removed from the fight. Definitely going to be going the way of the Shock here in this team fight. They're just trying to get any sort of straggler kills right at the tail end of this, just to buy as much time as possible from the Dallas Fuel.
And this level of aggression is so important for the Shock. Always keeping Dallas on the back foot. It also helps you just to do more damage, trade more engagements, and build up those ultimates, because the ults are going to make a difference. This is the final fight, essentially, for the Dallas Fuel. At least the final one that they can set up properly for. And they have a Primal, a Sound Barrier, and the Death Blossom. Death Blossom is normally used to close out fights, but the Sound Barrier engaged with Fearless's Primal Rage is a very good way of opening things up and getting through this choke point.
Dallas have got to do something big. Zoa has the Death Blossom, teleport up to the high ground. Booped away though, FD God. That's a wonderful presence of mind to respect Sparkle that kind of ability that's coming through. Again. Sparkle taken out. Oh my goodness, what a massive pickoff. Doha's got to try and come up big with this one. The Death Blossom comes through. It's going to be chewing right through the Shock. It takes out FD God, but is it going to be enough for them? Choi gets the remake. In the end, Primal Rage being committed. Now to Beam as well. Nero's desperately searching for another target. Striker straight across the bridge, layering down the damage on top with the ultimate of his own. Has to dodge the self-destruct. You've got to respect that kind of ability. Dallas, with the discipline, they disengage.
That is a huge moment here. There's going to be traded coalescences. The Shock, they don't even give the breathing room. They try and initiate really early on, Brett.
Yep, Sparkle trying to chunk down the coalescing Moira. Violet in the backline, but not able to do so. Dodging it with the Fade just in the nick of time. And now we see the San Francisco Shock taking the fight even further beyond. Double Divas on the battlefield once again. Dallas hunting for the opportunities, and they're finding it surely. The bomb from Nero will trade for one, but Dallas have got so many picks. This has to be going their way now. The overtime is burning. A couple of players left remaining. Are they going to be able to get this on the board? Surely it's going to be doable, and indeed it is. Finally getting that capture, but what in the world are we witnessing? These teams so back and forth.
Absolutely insane stuff there in that final moment, and there's some wry smiles on the faces of the Shock players as they realize that they had an opportunity to close out the series right there if they had just been able to convert in that team fight. But as they made the call to go aggressive with their coalescence, Dallas were already coming in through the door, and there was a weird smash in the middle as both teams met in an area where they weren't intending to take the team fight. It made for a very awkward engagement, which Dallas Fuel was able to overpower because of that point pressure. What a weird scenario we find ourselves in. But essentially, there's a minute on the clock for both teams, a minute 49 for the Shock, but those kind of things are probably not going to factor into it. What is going to make the difference, Bren, is how efficient these teams are at their point A attacks. And in the regulation time, in the normal rounds, they both got it immediately. The San Francisco Shock, when they were attacking, crushed the Junkrat defense, and Dallas Fuel themselves built up that really early coalescence and were able to wipe the Shock off after they barreled them into a corner.
And I wonder if the same opportunities are going to be presented to Dallas here when they're playing these comps, these mirror matches. Like you said just before, I mean, the Shock have no choice but to pump damage into them to stop them from taking the space on the map. Like, what are you going to do, not damage them? It's not an option. But you need to be able to close out those kills, otherwise Fielder's going to build up the coalescence, and that's a major win condition for them. We saw it last time, they took it quickly from it, So this minute might not actually matter. You can see a lot of damage being done. That is so aggressive from the Shock, but almost necessary from them. Nero, though, punished straight away.
Nero falling is absolutely devastating for the Shock here. They realize that it's over. There's no way that compositions like this are going to be able to recover. And Nero's the only player that can pull out crazy 3Ks and stuff. For the Shock now, it's just about trying to delay as much of the time back as possible. Maybe buy a little bit of time for a recon test.
They split up.
It looks like it might be possible. They split up and they're going to come back in, Brent.
Coalescence to try and lead this one in. It's traded immediately from both these teams. But look at the dive coming straight over the buildings. Now the sound barrier. It's a way faster one there. FD go with a massive advantage in this fight. Is it going to be enough for them? South Stroke pushes them away. The remake kill! Striker taken out. And Troy Hoban is going to be removed from the mech. That's the Death Blossom to try and really close this one out. Dallas, they were sweating there, but they will capture checkpoint A. And they've been granted just 30 seconds now to try and make it work.
And this is so dangerous for the Shock now. They invested double support ultimates to recontest A, and Dallas are pushing back in with a duplicate, and if they wait for just a moment, or if they pop it during the fight, Jexa will have sound barrier. They haven't been great in the series so far, Jexa's sound barriers, but this one, how could it go wrong?
Striker,
Jexa,
he goes down.
Dies.
Yep, Jexa falls. That is a huge one. No sound barrier now for them. Smurf. What a performance. The primal rage of 2 kills. You have got to be joking. And now he's diving in to try and clean up the remnants that are waiting on this point. He needed to make some huge plays. They needed something to happen. And he's done it there and then. Granted, Dallas Fuel, they did manage to capture up that checkpoint A. And when the sides get flipped around, that 1 minute 49, I mean, it might seem like they've got a way more time to work with, but in the grand scheme of things, it might not matter that much, and we could be seeing either a draw scenario or even just a win condition that's been built here from the Dallas Fuel to take away the map.
Very, very possible. But at least they were able to stop the momentum, the San Francisco Shock. And the player there that just clutches it out is Smurf. I was wondering why Jexa didn't pop his sound barrier. How can you die with it when it's such a big advantage for your team coming in? But the reason was he got Primal Rage. And if you're fighting against a Primal Rage Winston, you do not want to pop that sound barrier because you're up in the air, you're getting juggled. You're not going to be able to hit the floor in the middle of the fight.
It puts you further into the air.
Yeah, and Smurf is just juggling him around, getting the kill. Let's take a look at this replay and see exactly how it happened. Think about this from Jexa's perspective. Oh my word.
I'm not going to lie. That is ridiculous. That is actually ridiculous. I mean, he does it to both the supports as well because I think Fielder had to fade to catch into Jexa to keep him up, to keep him alive because they knew that was the win condition. I mean,
what a clutch.
That is so intelligent from Smurf. That is so intelligent.
And not just intelligent, but those mechanics as well. Ho, ho, ho! That was phenomenal.
Nasty, nasty stuff. The Shock have been granted a small window of opportunity, but it is a difficult one, even with everything they've accomplished. 1 minute 49 to try and catch this up. Look at how close Dallas are holding here. They don't want to let them get into the choke point, actually. They don't even want to let them get into this approach, but okay. They put in a bit of spam, regaining control of this high ground platform. And now it is just waiting it out. The damage they're doing is converting pretty nicely into the Coalescence, but it's even on both sides. Violet's going to have a slight advantage, most likely.
The advantage, it feels like it's getting bigger, but Field has just healed up a ton of his tanks, so he has one to respond.
Coalescence comes out from both of them. They need to keep Jexa up. Jexa just trying to avoid it, dodging the line of sight, but Doa and Spark will go down. The DPS at the Dallas Fuel, with them missing. I mean, the team fight just has gone, it's done, it's dusted. There's no chance of them trying to come back into this. They just simply do not have the damage. So this will be checkpoint A going up for the Dallas, for the San Francisco Shock. By the time they capture this, probably going to have like roughly a minute now to push into that last checkpoint to try and get a win, and they only have to get a tick.
Yeah, just a single tick. That's all they need. They don't really have a massive ultimate advantage or anything like that, but Nero did get up to his duplicate a little bit quicker. This is going to be essentially a neutral engagement, though. Smurf taking a bunch of damage. That might be able to get Violet up to his Coalescence. That could be a huge advantage, actually. Look how much further Violet is ahead of Fielder.
Dallas built up these ultimates, ready and waiting. You can see the Shock are trying to force out something. Building ultimates of their own, actually. All it takes is one team to try and take the initiative. Striker into the back line. Oh, comes in with the Death Blossom. They're trying to coordinate it, and it forces out the sound barrier on either side. Still, the damage being done, ripped across the map. Self-destruct comes through. That's the remake onto Spark to take him out of the duplicate. And Fearless with the Primal Rage has to try and separate a couple of these teammates on the San Francisco Shock. Might be able to get this kill onto Violet as well as the Fade comes through, but the heals are definitely there. Fearless punished in the end. FDGO coming through, but only now 12 seconds remaining. A Shock going to be able to touch this.
They'll be able to recontest, I think. FD God might be able to sneak on in there. But
Jexa
as for how they actually
waiting.
convert, who knows?
Okay, yeah, FD God came in from the side. They want to try and bring him down. FD God surely hasn't escaped out of this one. They got the overtime going. Now the Self-Destruct is going to be pushing them away. The bubble onto the high ground. It's going to keep Smurf back into this one. The overtime's going. We're really going to be seeing a draw here. Violet's so close. The Colas has built up, and Fearless goes down. What a massive opportunity now. The momentum should have shifted off the back of that one, but now they've got to close this one out. Dallas still desperate to hold on. They are dangerously close to a couple of these ultimates, but Fearless going down to the beam. That is not a great sign if you are a Dallas Fuel fan. This is it. This could be the series right here, right now. The sound barrier going to be applied to almost everybody on the San Francisco Shop, keeping them nice and healthy. And now Striker with the Death Blossom. Well, that's going to be stopping them from even walking into them. Still now the Coalescence, though, comes through, and that's a bit more extra damage. Dallas, they may have just wedged themselves into this point and found an opportunity off of it.
This is an incredible series of events. Fearless falls again, but he's so close to his primal
You're
rage.
kidding me.
And the rest of his teammates are buying time for him to be able to get back in.
The Self-Destruct into the back line. Dallas Fuel, they've got their team back up. They've bought enough time for them. They were so close to taking this tick, but I think the Shock have been battered back. You never want to count them out, but now Fearless has built up another Primal Rage in this fight, and he's continuing to try and clutch it up. Pushed off the point, and that's the draw.
Look at the emotion on these guys' faces as well. That was so close, Brent. Unbelievably close. FD God, he's got his hand to his head. He knows that they were just inches away from being able to secure the match victory there. And it can be really hard to close out elite level teams. The Shock wanted to capitalize on the success that they were having there and drive this one home. A 3-0 revenge game would have been beautiful. It's still possible. There's a draw here on Anubis, though.
Yeah, that has certainly made it spicy. The Dallas Fuel just clawing on to this series, and we're going to find out again if they can keep this one going on the other side of the break. I'm going to go run and grab a glass of water. I certainly need it. That is just absolutely absurd. We're going to see how this series really gets laid out now as we're heading into our fourth map of the series. Do not go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back from the break, everybody. And yeah, I don't know about you guys. I'm starting to heat up, Josh. I mean, I'm sweating buckets. Could also be the double layers that I'm wearing. But this series, I mean, the Dallas Fuel. Just when you think, oh, is this gonna be it? Is this gonna be it? Are they gonna be getting closed out in a 3-0? No, they get the draw, and they're gonna be taking it to that 4th map. Which you know, I'm gonna give you a spoiler alert. I know I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but it is gonna be Eichenwald because. I want to talk about these maps a little bit, Josh, because it has been pretty integral, I think, towards the direction of which way the series goes.
Definitely. I think, you know, when we think about how these teams have been playing against each other, most of what we've seen occurring are these battles between the Moira, Lucio, Reaper, Echo compositions, where they're just butting heads. And they're not necessarily always just butting heads. There's a lot of disengaging, rotating around, trying to build ultimates up, trading poke in order to convert it to coalescence. There's a lot of complex stuff that goes on in there, but we've mostly been seeing it play out on that one composition. As we trend towards Eichenwald, I don't really expect it to be a map where we have more of the long-range hit scan being played, similar to Dorado. I don't think we'll end up seeing that. Even though there are long sightlines where we're talking about like checkpoint B, there are a lot of different ways of navigating to shorten those sightlines and to get good engages onto people. So I don't think we're going to see like a huge amount of Widowmaker or anything like that. But they have altered their team roster a little bit. The Shock are going to be fielding Twilight here instead of FD God. So that implies to me that we're heading towards like the same kind of Mercy compositions with Violet playing that we saw previously.
Yes, and I think as well, I mean, Twilight coming in, you can see some of his statistics. This guy on the Ana, I mean, he's a bit of a freak of nature. We've always, I think it's been like a bit of a narrative in the past with Violet. Not having the strongest Ana play in the world. I mean, I think he's worked it up more recently, so it's definitely more than serviceable. But yeah, I mean, the fact that the Shock even have this guy on the bench most of the time is ridiculous, isn't it?
Absolute world-class flex support. In his own right was in the conversation for best flex support in the world when he was playing for the Vancouver Titans. Back when they were in a heated rivalry with the Shock, and then he moves to being a bench player for the Shock, where he isn't fielded often, but when Twilight does come in, he is immense. The impact he puts down on the server, the flanks that he goes for, the bionades, they are just wonderful to watch. The sleep darts as well. I mean, look at him statistically. He's just putting up crazy numbers left, right, and center. And he only gets fielded when the Shock know exactly how to use him. And that makes a big difference for a player like that. Because when Twilight comes in, you get the feeling that they are so well prepared. And he specifically is incredibly well prepared as well for whatever circumstance they're throwing out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Shock team environment, it's something that they've been quite public about, I think, in the past as well. But it's definitely like the kind of next man up kind of mentality that you see in a lot of sports teams, where like this is a team where all the players, sometimes I think, you know, a player might get put on the bench and they take that as a negative thing. But it's really just waiting for their turn to contribute to this team because, you know, they win as a team, they lose as a team. That's the Shock's mentality. That's their style. Yeah. So when Twilight does come into this like speciality role as well, I think a lot of players wouldn't really agree with that. They'd find difficulties with that. But when he does come in, I mean, he's always performing to the highest of his abilities. And here's the map, Paul. I mean, we briefly mentioned it. Eichenwald is the map of choice that we're going to be moving into. I don't really know who chose it. I say map of choice, like there was a decision made. I don't think either of these teams ended up deciding. I think it's almost like randomized in the say, yeah, it's the league. Yeah. The producer just said in my ear, you know, it's the league who decided the maps at the end. I think that's a good way. The way it's calculated. I mean, here's the thing. I think Matt would actually know about this, funnily enough, because he knows a lot of niche information about the way the decision-making works in the Overwatch League. As part of his job, presumably. But yeah, I imagine like each team has to play on each map a set amount of time, maybe in each tournament structure.
You are just wildly speculating right now.
I am, Josh. Yeah, I'm just pulling absolute nonsense out of my backside.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, here's the other thing, right? The last time that these two teams played against each other, it was the 3-0 for the Dallas Fuel, where there was a loser's pick scenario, right? Because it was one of the qualifier games, one of the playing games for the main melee.
Yeah.
So this time around, the Shock have gotten a decent map pool there with Dorado being in, where they have Glister that can play from a long range. I would say as well, Eichenwald seems to me to be a good map for them too, because it's somewhere where the Dallas Fuel might struggle a little bit to run these kind of rush-based compositions with the Winston, which Dallas are opting heavily into. And it's not that this composition is bad on Eichenwald, it's that a lot of the time you can't play it whilst also playing the payload. On checkpoint B, you want to be trying to rotate around and take high ground, but you're never going to be playing simply around the objective in the same way that you can on other maps.
And from the Shock side of things, you see this Orisa Diva composition a lot of people are playing. These days, a lot of teams are playing. Dallas making some adjustments, so they're actually going to be switching off of it to a degree, playing Sparkle on the Genji. They got the double bubble as well to try and enable that. Build up these blades, these nano blades, maybe the nano Winston as well, just to try and open up the map a little bit.
With the Lucio as well here, so they have that speed boost ability. It's much more of a hard dive. There they go, trying to take down Striker.
Oh, they get Striker.
Eviscerated.
That is beautiful. Sparkle's now hunting for one of the tanks if he can. You can see them being healed up. It's quite difficult to remove them from the fight, but look at that, he's walked straight into them. Dallas, what an opportunity for them. Well, Sparkle and Fielder go down in the end. I don't think it's going to be traded out. Well, here's the thing. Violet's still alive, might have that res still available. Sleep down onto Doha. Nobody's going to be able to contest the point, though, so ultimately this will just be stagger kills going the way of Dallas.
Great time bank here. And that entire dive was set up beautifully. They had some of their DPS going around the corner. Sparkle gets a good engage. At the same time, Striker can't flashbang Sparkle because he has to deal with Fearless jumping onto his head. Really nicely played there. And the San Francisco Shock, they adapt. They're moving off the Orisa composition, going towards that Winston. And it gives them a little more flexibility and a bit more ability to rotate their positions based on where Dallas are coming from, which is very difficult if you're running Orisa comps.
Nano boost onto Nero. Look at the damage he's putting in. Oh my goodness. Not going to get that kill for the time being. His team wasn't really synced up as well to try and provide that one. Nero just needs to survive here, so he's like backing off. Because remember, the Dallas Fuel composition, they kind of want to say similarly clumped up. Twilight goes down though. That's that Nano Blade that we were talking about. Oh my goodness. It's made short work of it. There was an opportunity for Nero to try and maybe even it out as well as he dove into the back line, but with the faster spawns, I think the Dallas Fuel are definitely going to be favored now. This payload is going to be moving at a steady pace.
It certainly is. 4 minutes still in the time bank here as Sparkle moves over to the Reaper, so we're not committing to the Genji anymore. That was their answer to the Orisa compositions that came out from the Shock. Now that it's a Winston on both sides, Sparkle needs those big Hellfire shotguns to deal with Smurf. And they're flanking through the castle. This is what I was talking about, where you can't really play the payload as easily. But they ignore it, go up top, and take out Twilight.
Yeah, Twilight's going to be removed. Taken out of the fight here. And look at this pressure that Nero is putting out. Oh my goodness, the peel is pretty good. Fielder might actually survive this one, even with the Primal Rage up in his face. A Sleep Dart, that's definitely going to do it. And he's bought enough time here for the Dallas Fuel to really put in a bit of work. Nero almost taken out in the end, but they do get enough space to just res up Striker here. Still, that beam, what, tracking Violet, taken off the face of the earth once more. Dallas Fuel just steadily getting these picks time and time again, and the cart, I mean, typically, if you're in the Shock's position on the defense side here, you want to be getting that defense happening when you have control of that high ground. Not the case now.
Sparkle's also hanging around up above the choke point. Gets booped away by Violet, who is now on Lucio, by the way. Violet Lucio coming out in this game. We've seen the Mercy, we've seen the Brig, and now we're seeing Lucio on the field. What can't this guy play? I mean, in fact, can he play Lucio?
The grab is used, the Nano Boost to try and combo, but Hambin, that was the Bionade that was applied from range. I think that's Twilight again, indeed, probably was. And that actually reduced the healing possible. The Shock winning out this team fight. I mean, that happened in the blink of an eye.
Which, by the way, at the beginning of that fight, Violet gets the kill on Fielder. Fielder now moving over to Moira as well to give him a little more survivability, because he apparently doesn't want to be dived by the Violet Lucio. I'm going to keep saying that because it's blowing my mind. Here we go, a Twilight flank. These are the gorgeous plays that Twilight sets up. He's so happy to go on these little flanks with the Bionades and a sleep on Fielder.
Yeah, but he's being pressured so heavily here. Fearless recognized that he could jump onto him when that sleep dart missed. I think that target was probably intended to be one of the main tanks, but Dallas Fuel Already Smurf going down as well. Fearless using that Primal Rage to turn it in their favor, just to really kind of cement this lead that they've brought up in this team fight. Yeah, that should do it, honestly. Duplicate committed. Nero wants to try and fight this one. This is the kind of playstyle that you see the Shock take. They often invest ultimates and abilities into fights. They see opportunities that us mere mortals can't really spot when it's trying to turn the fight around. Striker's still alive, buying time onto the cart, but look at that damage. Yeah, that is not survivable. Smurf goes down when he was 99% to the Primal Rage, so he's not going to be able to stall out that card any longer. And now Dallas working with about 3 minutes. They're pushing into the final checkpoint.
The Violet Lucio again tried to contest against Hanbin and got flattened by the Call Mech. So this is not really working out for the Shock here. There are holes in their game plan that are being exploited right now by Dallas. Some good swaps in terms of the composition that they're running. The Shock are looking to engage again.
Ooh, okay. Yep. Well, the Death Blossom into the sideline. Doha so low. The Sticky Bomb's not enough because the Wraith Form was there. Striker healed up in the end. Honestly, Shock were probably starting to sweat a little bit in that scenario. You never want to let the momentum build up in that kind of fashion.
Absolutely not. And they have huge ultimates to be able to work with now too. That was a really great engage off the Death Blossom from Striker. He's been finding such crucial teleports into Dallas Fuel's backline and then getting value from the Death Blossom. He's now hiding in one of the corners, looking for another aggressive engage off the back banana boost this time.
Yep, Smurf leading it in. He's kind of getting chunked down though, half HP, has the Primal Rage. Oh, okay. Oh my goodness, the bubble actually blocks a bit of it for his team. I don't know, maybe if that wasn't there may be an opportunity for Dallas. Still a huge Bionade. 3 members caught there on Dallas. Sparkle tries to even it out using this Death Blossom in the backline. Smurf was desperately trying to get a kill with that Primal Rage again, but won't be happening in the end. The Shock still evening it out, but Dallas Fuel are the ones who are edging out this lead in the team fight. And now, with a minute and a half, the cart will finally begin to start getting pushed towards that 3rd and final checkpoint.
I believe this is still the same first sound barrier that Violet has. They haven't found an opportunity to use it, saving it defensively. A minute on the clock here, though, and Doha, they now have double Reaper on the board.
Yeah, the double Reaper already built up that Death Blossom. Now he's going to let it loose. Violet not able to boop him away. We'll get catch there, and now the damage is definitely being done. I mean, it's just impossible to survive that. Multiple ultimates being committed. The Dallas Fuel capturing all 3 checkpoints here with 47 seconds left on Iconvolt. That is impressive. They are coming back into this series with passion and vigor.
They certainly are. That's a really good time bank as well. To be able to have still time on the clock after you've completed Iconvolt, that's excellent. And it felt like San Francisco were pushed into really uncomfortable territory there. I am fairly positive that the game plan did not naturally involve Violet moving over to play Lucio for them. They just felt like they had to go towards that because Jex's speed boosts were messing them up. It's the tempo. It makes such a big difference when these top teams are playing against each other. And Dallas find such great engages time and again.
They certainly do. It's the Dallas Fuel obviously showcasing they're not going to be going out of this series easily. They're going to be fighting back all the way. Here's these final moments from Sparkle, actually. I think we were watching Smurf's POV when he was trying to batter them around, and this is what he was able to do to open it up when they were getting held up at this choke point. And he's just doing so much damage, isn't he? It's so hard to try and contest that. But yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Josh, when I definitely, probably, at least I hope not, wasn't in the game plan for Violet to be playing this Lucio to try and match them, but it's looking like now on the attacking side, might be opting into this one again. I mean, they might be teasing us as well. Look, Smurfs on the hog. Potentially might see something different.
Looks like they want to go for it once more. Again, I feel like they were not expecting this map to go in this direction, but instead, we were saying that it's been Dallas Fuel playing to the San Francisco Shock's tune for this entire series so far. This map is the other way around. Shock came in with a plan to play more Anacomps, and now they're being forced to mirror.
Nero's just trying to keep the other Echo player in check, but Doha's going to get the support of his teammates as Hanbin will take Nero out. And yeah, with this composition, I mean, it feels like we say this often, but you lose one of the damage players, it's very difficult to try and find an in back into it unless you commit ultimates, and obviously the start of the the team fight. Not going to be having those built up just yet.
Keeping my eyes on Twilight here. He has that Coalescence ready, and Violet's actually outpacing Jexa just slightly. So here we go, the shock engage. Dallas try and kite it away by hiding inside some of these little huts and corridors that they have access to, but now they come back out with that self-destruct.
Yep. Duplicate is used there from Doha early on in this fight. Probably going to be fading out of it pretty soon. He's already built up another self-destruct though, and the bombs are being dropped all over the bloody place. Dallas trying to turn it now. Fearless with this Primal Rage once again. And he has caught one of the players, Violet, right in the corner. Catching him. Unable to escape from that one. So Shock again have to rethink how they want to approach this one. And Josh, you said it at the beginning, but it definitely feels like it's going this way. I mean, the Dallas Fuel, now that Violet is on this Lucio, it's shifted the momentum, the feel of this match overall.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily because of individual mistakes from Violet. I would have to look from his replay to be able to get a good feel for how good he was. But overall, they just don't look as comfortable playing this version of the composition with this roster. The coordination isn't quite there, and this is such a comp that relies on everybody being on the same page. The speed boost disengages, again, a little slow there, but they do catch Doha.
Yeah, and now we see the self-destruct being used. It clears the bubble off the point, the Coalescence coming through from Twilight. That should be the ultimate on top of this to try and clear this fight out. Feel the force from it. Striker just trying to avoid this bomb coming through. Has the Death Blossom if they need it, but chances are, with only a couple of players left standing on the Dallas Fuel side, will be the Shock taking up this first checkpoint. And yeah, it took them a while to take, didn't it? It really did. I mean, Dallas Fuel not willing to give this one up in the slightest.
Compared to the other side, when Dallas was attacking checkpoint A, they dismantled Shock's Orisa defense immediately. So this sets the Shock up for a time bank disadvantage as they push through checkpoint B. And Dallas look like they want to engage immediately as soon as the portcullis opens.
Yeah, I'm trying to stop them here. At the choke would be ideal. This is where they want to take the fight. Nero with the duplicate over to towards the Diva on both of these sides. Striker, that Death Blossom. I mean, that's done all the work you really need, I think, to win out that one. 2 kills. It's a done deal at that point. At this point, Dallas are just going to be throwing the bodies at the payload to try and stop it from moving just that little bit more further forward.
Striker used his teleport really early on to get inside the castle, and so Dallas couldn't hold all the way forwards because they would have had a Reaper at their backs. So really great play to think about that and to set up for the next team fight so early on. And now Shock are just trying to get as much payload push as they possibly can. Violet failing a bit of his movement there, but here's the Coalescence traded on both sides.
Violet's still just holding onto this sound barrier. Now he's going to let it rip, keeping his team healthy, giving them a bit more health to work with. You can see another Primal Rage of Fearless is actually doing a tremendous amount of work, just displacing the rest of the Shock, splitting them up, and there's a kill that comes off the back of that one, the self-destruct from Hanbin. Striker no longer in this fight. This self-destruct has to be massive here, but Troy is able to get back into the mech. Does force out this sound barrier as Dallas will be winning out this team fight in the end, but at least the Shock managed to squeeze a couple of ultimates away from Dallas.
They certainly have, and they've stopped the momentum too. The Shock are in a position where they don't really have access to large ultimates that they can use to generate momentum. We're looking at Twilight and Fielder who are mirroring each other in terms of the Coalescence. So now this is about taking a pretty dry engagement, unless they can get Striker in another great position to go for one of those Death Blossom plays, because those engages have been fantastic too.
Here's a duplicate, again Doha, right on the money. The Diva's going to be taken, and Smurf is, I mean, he's just destroyed instantly. Pretty much a lost fight off the back of that. You can't really be taking the fight without your main tank. There's an attempt here from Nero as well, as he's still alive, to try and maybe get a kill or 2 potentially with the sticky bombs, but you have to call it quits here. Rethink how you're taking the fight.
Yeah, these deaths are very late as well from Nero and Twilight, just playing around the payload. So only a minute left on the clock here. The Shock are struggling to get into a good position. You might want to see them take high ground control rather than just keep pathing towards the payload. Looks like that's what they're going to do. They're going inside the castle, or maybe faking it actually. They might go for a speed boost engage up the stairs.
Striker's just trying to set up this TP into the back line. He's caught them right there, the Death Blossom to lead it in. Not enough damage, it's being counteracted there. You can see Fielder using that Coalescence, and he kites it beautifully, keeping his team back up. Dallas, they have every single ultimate they need to try and answer what's being chucked at them. Jex also, I believe that may have been an environmental kill. Onto Striker, taking him out of the fight nice and easily there. That's going to be a lot of damage removed, and now Sparkle. No one's there to try and shut him down. That Death Blossom is getting an immense amount of work. 30 seconds now for the Shock on the attack. And Josh, yeah, I mean, it's feeling like it's getting closed out.
Wait a second though, Brent. That is a big pick to get. Striker got shut down at the beginning. That kill from Jex here wasn't an environmental. It was just sheer amounts of damage that were being pressured into him. The Coalescence and that final boot to finish him off. But this time, Striker at the beginning of this team fight finds a kill on Sparkle, and that's a lot of damage removed. They can start getting these positions early on.
A lot of pressure on the Fearless. Forced to use his Primal Rage, but Striker goes down, taken out of the fight once again. The Coalescence on top. It's really feeling like a done jobber here for the Dallas Fuel. Even the double self-destructs might not be enough to try and stave this one away. Overtime is coming through. The bubble laid down onto the cart, but the Shock, they just don't have enough damage to try and push this one a little bit further now. Striker comes back into the fight, but Sparkle holding onto this Death Blossom, just begging them to get him closer to try and touch this payload and keep the overtime going, and that will force them even further into the series. The Dallas Fuel taking away Eichenwald. It's not over just yet, Josh. Not over by any stretch of the imagination. This is a team that they've been in these scenarios before. I mean, they're no strangers to these long drawn-out series, and they've got the mental fortitude to battle back.
And this is why FD God was devastated towards the end of Anubis. The Shock had a really good opportunity to close out this series 3-0 in 3 maps. This is the problem when you play against the best teams in the world. They are difficult to close out. These final maps can be the most hard to win, the most difficult to get on the board, because they just never give up. Dallas, the momentum has shifted firmly in their favor, I think. After that Eichenwald and being able to force the draw on Anubis, they look like they're straight back into this game.
We're going to see just how this series is really going to be playing out now as we're heading over to a short break. And the next control type is going to be, or the next control type, next game type will be control. We've gone mixing it up in the end. Last time it was the Shock who took this, but momentum is firmly on Dallas Fuel's side. So let's find out just if they can take it all the way on the other side of this one. Don't go anywhere.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G network. Set your sights on the competition with T-Mobile.
Welcome back from the break, everybody. And the scoreline might just be 2-1 currently, but the momentum, make no mistake, is definitely going away at the Dallas Fuel here. This is a team that obviously have been well-versed of playing in these kind of conditions with these high-pressure scenarios. And we've really, Josh, got a nice rivalry building between both of these teams this year.
Incredibly true. This is a rivalry up at the top level in the Western region. Yes, it wasn't the finals or anything like that, but both of these teams are competing right now to be North America's kind of hope in these big games when they take on APAC in these stage finals as well. FD God comes back in for Twilight here, so we're moving more towards the Moira Lucio option, which I anticipate a lot of when it comes to control. It was basically all that these teams were playing on Busan. But yeah, Brent, to remind everybody again, this is our defending champions from not just last year, but the year before as well, playing against our May Melee champions most recently. So this is a legacy great team going up against a recently great team. And my word, what a clash it's been. This match has been electric.
And now we're heading over to Ilios. We saw, as you mentioned, Josh, FD God coming back in. We're probably going to be seeing these similar kind of compositions and styles that we saw on Busan between these two teams. And map number 1 was obviously only slightly favored towards the Shock. Honestly, it could have gone either way, I think, in terms of a couple of minor differences throughout the team fights. But we're seeing a return over to Control, a return over to Ilios. And yeah, it really does feel like that. You never know, this series is going in the direction of Dallas. I mean, we were almost cursed with like a one-sided affair, I guess, the 3-0. The classic close 3-0 where on paper you look at the 3-0 and you're like, kind of got rolled. When in reality, you look at each individual map and either side could have really taken it. But we are definitely being treated now with two of the best teams in North America, really just clashing, headbutting each other and over and over and over again. I mean, they must have 2-inch thick skulls at this point.
The Shock also came into this series, I think, with a fire underneath them to go out there and prove to everybody that they are back, that they are a dominant team. I think they came into this wanting to 3-0 Dallas, the same way that they got 3-0'd by Dallas in the May Melee qualifiers. And now that momentum, that drive, it feels like it's starting to slip away just a little bit. They need to recapture that spirit heading into Ilios.
Certainly do. The teams are not wasting any time. Speed boosting into each other, the bubbles laid down. Doha now looking for a bit of a flank angle. Has to respect the opposition on the Shock side when it comes to the DPS. They might be able to shut him down pretty easily if he oversteps himself with that flight. But for now, there's no casualties. Both teams are just going to be spamming each other out, trying to build up the coalescence, not overstep themselves. And the point has unlocked. Both teams not willing to give up any space.
The boo?
What? Okay. I was wondering what occurred just there, but that's a big opening kill. Sparkle goes down. That was the environmental kill, and despite the coalescence is coming through, they just lack the damage. Sparkle's not here in this fight. A bit of a mistake coming out there from Fielder, and it means that the initial team fight goes the way of the Shock here on Ilios.
Overall, though, just what an incredible play from FD God. He comes back in, replacing Violet on the Lucio, and he gets what almost could have been a 2k boop there, because I think Hanbin nearly went into the well as well.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this replay here. He just slides around the side at the same time. Whoop, there we go. I don't think he was even aiming for Sparkle, but that's the kill that actually goes through into the kill feed.
Yeah, and I thought it might have been intentional from Hanbin, but straight back into the action, I guess. FD God has built up an early sound barrier because of it. He's caught it onto a couple of them. Nero, though, remeching in. Oh, might be able to just get back out of that duplicate form. The self-destruct comes through. Choi getting a great kill onto Fielder. Dallas Fuel, not with too many options. Sparkle's still in it, though. Just trying to chunk them down with those Hellfire shotguns again, but it's Striker who ends up winning this one out. Still, Doha as well with the spam of the tri-shot. Jexa on top of this one. Dallas Fuel not giving up so easily.
They're not giving up, but they are just slowly losing a war of attrition. They're coming back in here again without their Lucio. Maybe trying to get value out of the fact that Doha is up high in the sky and the Coalescence is available, but Violet's going to have one to respond with anyway.
And he's using it straight away. It forces Fielder to use his own in response. And look at Fielder, he's really just using it to try and keep his team alive. Sparkle in the back line ended up using the Death Blossom, but it just made him so susceptible. He was a walking duck. Sitting duck. The Death Blossom comes through from Striker. Oh my goodness.
I like walking duck, honestly.
Walking duck, sitting duck.
He was a bit of a sitting duck, though. The thing there, though, is that Sparkle went for that engage without the rest of his team being ready for it. A communication lapse there. We've seen all of these Death Blossom plays. They have to be followed up with the rest of your team. You need to be attacking them from multiple avenues. And instead, Sparkle just went in completely alone. Big failures here from the Dallas Fuel. And just as the momentum was in their favor, it looks like it's slipping away again. Shock out here playing with a vengeance.
They have to win this team fight right now, but Smurf, he's got the Primal Rage, leaping up behind them, trying to catch them out. Doesn't opt to use it because he's being healed up by his team. And look at that, Nero, he's built up the self-destruct in the duplicate form. Fearless is gone, out of the fight. FD God, though, falling, and the Coalescence is keeping their team healthy, so Dallas going to be trading out these kills. Smurf still holding on to this Primal Rage, only waiting to use it at the final moments, and now he lets it loose. This is what's going to be really starting to rip into the Dallas Fuel, along with the Coalescence. Dallas trying to stay back into this now as Jexa lets loose this soundbar that he's been keeping. But Fielder falling means they're going to be lacking a lot of healing as this team fight starts to get closed out. Smurf solo, 1 HP, eventually brought down. Dallas not giving up in the slightest. Joe Hillman just had the boosters ready and waiting. So he didn't end up falling into the middle of the well, but nobody touches. Nobody touches. A rare mistake from the Dallas Fuel.
That's devastating. That entire round was devastating for Dallas. But the way that they didn't contest the objective there, where Jexa and Doha are both very, very much within touching distance. Oof, there's some big comms issues creeping into Dallas's game. That wasn't the only mistake of the round.
Yeah, that is quite unfortunate. Just as we were talking about this concept of the momentum, the feel of this match going towards the Dallas Fuel, the Shock just come back in, and they look no different than that first map, especially FD God. I mean, what a play from him, setting up so many scenarios, environmental kills. He's really making it work on the loose here. You can see the difference almost, this team, in terms of how they play this composition. Now, we're going again here. It's the second round, and Dallas, they need to win this right here, right now. They got to take it away, otherwise the Shock will be walking away with this series. Nero putting in a bit of that spam damage to try shots to send flying, sticky bombs as well. Maybe hunting for a stray kill. The engagement comes through as Fearless lays down the bubble. Nero being pressured, so has to use the flight to get out of there. Right now it looks like Dallas do have the positioning advantage.
They definitely do, and a huge amount of damage onto the backline as well. If D-God is weak, as they try and push people away, Hanbin low in terms of his mech, but they're going to be able to push back up here as well. Look at the Coalescence, he's doing so much damage to Fearless. They managed to pick him off. All of the damage on everybody. Field is desperately trying to keep everyone alive, but the Dallas Fuel, they're going to lose this team fight. The only silver lining is that they managed to capture the objective, but that, I mean, surely they're not going to be able to turn this around, right? Sparkle
Death Blossom
ultimate.
Sparkly can't walk out of the way of the self-destruct, and Doa used the duplicate as well. Ultimate's being expended, but they don't even gain the point to turn this one. And it's really getting heated in these team fights. I mean, Dallas are committing stuff because they are confident in their abilities to turn the fights, Josh, but it's just not working out for them.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big mistake, I think. 23%, sure, that's a decent little silver lining, but they used both DPS ultimates there, completely wasted towards the end. And now the Shock have all the tools they need to keep this momentum going and keep the point in their control.
The engagement from Fearless, he's built up the Primal Rage and he's forced to use it probably a little bit earlier than he was anticipating. If he gets an environmental kill, he might be laughing all the way to the bank, but it's not looking too likely. Jexa using that sound barrier so their team is healthy. They can withstand a lot of this pressure, but Fearless getting caught out. The Coalescence doesn't catch on to him. Fielder not able to keep his team alive. And look at that, one stray shot into the Death Blossom. That is an immense amount of work. Hanbin, has he just turned this for them? The 2K with a self-destruct, I don't think it's going to be enough. The pressure and damage and healing is too much there from the Shock, and they are going to be winning and closing out this team fight.
That's a huge one. I mean, Hanbin again commits an ultimate to that fight, but it did look turnable for a moment, so I don't have any problems with what they went through there. These DPS ultimates from Dallas are only just now getting back online, and it's 70% for the Shock. There's also a sound barrier, so if Sparkle tries to get in a position to use this Death Blossom, FD God has the counter.
Sparkle, he's got to find magic with this one. Maybe a teleport into the back line. That's a preemptive sound barrier. Shocker looking to try and use that extra health to maybe get a pick off. Dallas going to be waiting it out. Okay, the self-destruct comes straight over, and the DPS is still holding on to a couple of these ults. You can see Hanbin actually moved over to the Diva with that duplicate. And they're going to be flipping this point over to them. Okay. That's not bad at all from Dallas.
No, it certainly isn't. I'm wondering what their goal was with that sound barrier engage. They popped sound barrier, but they didn't really go anywhere, and it didn't feel like there was a good target that San Francisco had decided to isolate either. So now momentum again just ping-pongs back and forth between these two teams. Double support ultimate available for Dallas Fuel as they try and crush this insurrection from the Shock.
The Shock recognize what they need. It's one team fight win, so they just kite it straight backwards, and it's a better coalescence coming out. They're trying to punish this play that's coming out from Dallas. It's going to be the sound barrier now as well. That will keep them nice and healthy once more. With the health on top of this, Dallas are not able to get these picks, and Nero, look at this, uses the duplicate. Now Sparkle tries to make it work. It's going to be the Death Blossom, but it's not enough. Striker teleports into the back line. He's been doing this all series long. 2 kills for him. The support line is gone. They're destroyed. The Wraith form to dodge, and the Hellfire shotgun to the face to remove him. Hanbin will not be present for this final team fight. They might be able to buy a bit of time now with these kills coming in, but the Shock are just far too dominant, and only a couple of percentage points stands between them and taking the map and the series, Josh.
There's only a couple of players that can contest here. Jexer, he activates overtime. The wick is burning. Somebody needs to be able to get on top. Striker and Smurf aren't really in the fight yet, though. They're coming back in. And Violet's desperately trying to build up towards that coalescence, utilizing his ult to keep himself alive.
Coalescence instantly going to be used as soon as he builds it up, but there's players alive now. Dallas, they're looking to get these opportunities to flip this point. Maybe they can try and get a pick off, cutting off Smurf as he dove into the back line, and it's going to be the better coalescence from Fielder. This is an opening for them. Smurf biting off a bit more than he can chew, gets taken out. 81% is what Dallas have built up. If they can win this team fight, it's very favorable for them to take this round away.
And they've gone and done it. The Dallas Fuel have got this team fight, and they have ults to be able to work with here too. But it's not really the ults, Bren, it's the aggression. Dallas are going to be able to hold forwards. They have much better positioning as well. And as that San Francisco try and approach with Violet dead,
who touches
respawn queue? How do they even get there?
Who touches the sound barrier? Somebody managed to get onto it. They've got the health on top. Jex is so close to his own sound barrier. Sparkle cleaving them off the point now, using that Death Blossom. Nero moving over to the Diva, just going to be duplicating that up, and Jexa now finally unleashing that support ultimate he was saving. It's more than enough to try and clear them away, and Violet falling means there's going to be a lack of heals. That self-destruct as well. Smurf using the Primal Rage. Jexa taken off the map. Self-destruct also being utilized to try and clear them away, but the Dallas Fuel, they've got the position, and they've got the bodies, and they've got the damage. I don't think there's really much the Shock can do, but as I say that, Nero trying his hardest to turn this fight around. But Doa, the presence is there, and that is going to be the round going the way of the Dallas Fuel. 1-1 on Ilios. They're staying in it, Josh.
By the skin of their teeth, the Dallas Fuel are staying in it. The Shock were at a major advantage in that round multiple times, and I keep going back to the fact that FD God used his sound barrier and they weren't able to get any kind of advantage out of it and lost the team fight. That to me was a big turning point when it came to the momentum. And Dallas, they run away with that one. If you give them an inch, they're taking a mile. The Shock are going to be kicking themselves. They didn't close it out on Anubis. They can't afford to let the Dallas Fuel to tie this series up. To me, the series really does come down to this final round. If this goes to a sixth map, a decider again, you've got to feel like the Fuel are in such a controlling position.
Yeah, the series slowly slipping into their control. But here we are, the final round of Ilios. And again, a familiar scene. Both teams trading out the damage. This time, Smurf gets caught. And that's just one weakness. Blood in the water. They pounce on it. No remorse. And now they're going to get in these stagger kills. The point only just unlocking, so Shock just going to be disengaging. And like, okay, we're going to reset and take the next team fight when we can. But Dallas are going to have positioning advantage and a couple of ultimate advantage, actually. Look at the difference in the coalescence, Josh.
Yeah, the coalescence is huge, and that's mostly because Smurf got burned down early on in the fight, and his health pool wasn't available for Violet to heal up. See, the problem with this map, though, is that Fielder can't really use it aggressively until the Shock have committed through these choke points. And by the time they've committed, Violet is going to have his own coalescence. So Shock are just playing this one slowly until they have their ultimates, until they have the tools to take them on.
Coalescence is traded now eventually. It's just going to be counteracting each other's ultimates. See the duplicate coming through. Nero already building up these self-destructs as they're coming out again. It's so important for these Echo players to be building up these self-destructs to try and force these team fights into favorable positions. Doha was taken out of his duplicate. Nero is still in it, and that's the bomb taking out Hanbin. Doha, okay, has the flight, but 18 health. The sound barrier just catches. Jexa wants to keep him in this fight, but this might be done and dusted in this team fight at least. Striker laying down even more consistent damage. And they flip the point over, so the Shock in control.
A 50% advantage here in this final round of Ilios, though, for the Dallas Fuel. Doha wasn't really able to get much value in that fight. You saw him just kind of hanging around in the back, zoned out by a self-destruct as well from Nero's duplicate, and then trying to hunt somebody. Also, Jexa's sound barriers in this series have not been that great. This one, I believe, did not catch on to Fearless, and he ended up falling to Striker, so that's a big mistake for the Dallas Fuel. But they're still in the lead.
They are certainly still in the lead. Favorited currently to try and take this map away. Coalescence comes through. Violet just trying to keep his team alive. Fielder beams down FD God. And Violet's now being forced and corralled into the corner with this Primal Rage. Has to back off round. And that's going to be, I think, maybe an environmental kill. No, the boosters came up from Choi, but eventually demeched in the process anyway. The bubble laid down. Shock just committing bodies. That's a remech kill onto Sparkle. Didn't respect it. Choi, they couldn't burst him down in time, and he got the mech off. What a turning point for that team fight.
That is insane. I mean, if Choi Yobin doesn't have his boosters online and he gets environmental killed, that fight is 100% locked up for the Dallas Fuel. I thought it was anyway, but once Sparkle goes down to the remech of all things, they just simply don't have enough damage. And the Shock hold on again.
All eyes on Doha and Nero here with these duplicates. Doha's got to try and find a pick off somehow. Again, the Divas being duplicated up, building up the self-destructs. The coalescence from Fielder is good, but Violet's been holding on to one of his own. And now look at this, the self-destructs come through. It's a perfect kiting maneuver from the Shock. They just take in all of this aggression, and now they're going in with the better healing and the Death Blossom. The damage, it feels too much to withstand. The Dallas Fuel just kind of keeling over against the might of the San Francisco Shock. If only a couple of players maybe can touch this one now. 95% and counting. FD God is trying to keep an eye out for some of them. They touch it up. The bubble comes through. It buys them a bit of time, but the sound barrier is going to be keeping them nice and healthy. Still Fearless with that environmental kill. Smurf sent off the map. I'm not sure how that happened, but that could be massive for them.
The Shock are in a great position here if they can just hold on and tickle this point a little more. Nero, he's able to get a kill, but Dallas Fuel easily being able to take that one. The thing is, though, they're still in a good position. That's my point, is that they have this 99% advantage, right? They only need a single team fight to go back in their favor. The unfortunate part about that is there's double support ultimates they need to force out. That should be their goal in this next team fight, is to bleed Jexa and Fielder of their ultimates.
Fielder uses the coalescence.
Good disengage.
Building up that, building up the percentage here for the Dallas Fuel, but you're right, Josh, it's the disengage from the Shock. It's what they wanted. Now they're going to be looking to try and go back in. Obviously, they have Violet with his own coalescence being built up as we speak. Nero is quite low. I think that's being pressure in the back line, but now the ultimates are really getting traded out. Sparkle trying to do a lot of damage to them. Shock just eating it all up with the defense matrix. Obviously, double Divas on the field. Makes it nice and easy to try and mitigate a lot of it coming in their way. Nero with the bomb. Doha gets taken out. That could be critical.
That might be game-changing right there. Here's Fearless with the Primal Rage, desperately trying to turn this team fight in his favor. He's isolated Violet, he's isolated Striker as well, but he can't find environmental kills. How did Dallas hold on to this? This map, it's their lifeline.
Yep, Violet went down. That could be the one thing they're looking for, but Fearless falls! And that is going to be the series. The San Francisco Shock taking it away in the 3-1 fashion, but I mean, you look at that scoreline, it was anything but easy. The Dallas Fuel, so often throughout this series, had so many opportunities to squeak away a map here and there, especially on Ilios. That is absolute pain for the Dallas Fuel, but one thing is certain. A new rivalry is born between these two teams, and one that is actually quite genuine. Hasn't been manufactured. These teams now genuinely are trying so hard to take each other down.
Absolutely. And when you think about the storyline of these teams moving from the May Melee into the June Joust, the Dallas Fuel, they burned hot, they burned bright when it came to May. But revenge, it's a dish best served cold. And the San Francisco Shock, they came into this match wanting to put out the fire of the Fuel. They wanted to quash the Flames completely. And at the beginning, they definitely got the better end of that. It was a tight series to close out, though. I think that Dallas Fuel proved at least that they are going to be on the same level. This team, this match that we saw was a battle between two evenly matched teams. It's just that the Shock edged it out in certain areas. I mean, especially when we're thinking about Dorado and the way that they were able to play with the long-range hit scan. That, to me, seems like the only major flaw in terms of what the Dallas Fuel are providing. Plus, I think this game, Brent, also gave us a feel of what the meta maybe is trending towards. Both of these teams pretty much exclusively playing that Reaper Echo Rush composition instead of moving towards Orisa. It just feels like whenever they brought it out, whenever they tried to play some kind of static composition, the dives were overwhelmingly coordinated.
An essential piece of a lot of these Rush compositions is the Winston players. Our player of the match is going to be going to Smurf for this one here, presented by Xfinity. This guy, again, such a central figure for the team in terms of finding those opportunities on the Winston, separating them with the Primal Rages. I mean, the guy is just unreal. And don't get me wrong, Fearless was definitely making it competitive on the other side of things, but it just came down to that just extra preparation on some of these maps that gave Shock the slight edge.
That play was phenomenal, to be able to get Jexa there, and they still weren't able quite to close out the map. But yeah, Smurf, I think credit to both Smurf and Fearless here, because there's so much pressure on those main tanks. But the way that Smurf was able to use his Primal Rages and knock people around to just disjoint the Dallas Fuel and isolate players that the rest of his team could take down, and his survivability, and it just felt like he was at times immortal on the battlefield because he was not making mistakes with his positioning. A really impressive showing, I think, from Smurf, and also from a bunch of other people too, as Shock close out today's match.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think as well, this was a good showcase, I think, from the Shock in terms of there was a lot of worries, I think, that they weren't as dominant in the past. I mean, they've shown much more weakness, I think, in this 1 year, partly because of the heightened competition in North America compared to previous years. Normally, they're only really being contested by 1 or 2 teams. But this is definitely a year, obviously. I mean, they've had a lot of moving pieces. They've been, as you mentioned earlier as well, like Krusty normally would have quite a vast support staff surrounding him as well. It's changed now. There's been this brain drain. Other teams now, the coaches are being spread around a little bit, and the Shock have, obviously, competitors across the board in North America. We're going to be going to a short break. On the other side of it, of course, we've got that interview with Glister and the Watchpoint crew. We're going to be breaking down the day. You don't want to miss it, ladies and gentlemen, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the Watchpoint post-show.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Welcome to the Watchpoint Post Show presented by IBM. We're joined now by Glister from San Francisco Shock. Glister 선수, 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
Congratulations on your win. And now, Dallas Fuel was a team that knocked you guys out of the May Melee tournament. And you guys, today, finally got your revenge. How did you prepare for your match against the Dallas Fuel? 오늘 달라스와의 경기 좀 아무래도 제가 봤을 때는 센쇼에게 조금 더 특별하지 않았나 싶어요. 아무래도 5월 토너먼트에서 달라스한테 져서 패배 이후 5월 토너먼트에서 탈락을 하게 되셨는데 오늘 드디어 복수를 하시게 되셨습니다. 오늘 달라스와의 경기를 좀 어떻게 준비하셨나요?
일단은 저희가 저번 달라스전 때 되게 좀 쓰라리게 졌다 해야 되나? 그래가지고 좀 되게 준비를 되게 많이 했었고 저번 때는 이제 저희가 좀 똑같이 준비도 열심히 했고 노력했지만 약간 달라스에 비해 조금 부족해서 졌지 않았나 싶고 이번엔 저희가 진짜 이기고 싶어가지고 최대한 진짜 효율적으로 연습했고 그리고 되게 노력을 많이 했던 것 같습니다.
Right, so the last time we played against the Dallas Fuel, we definitely lost convincingly. We sort of got rolled against the Dallas Fuel. They were the better team. So, I mean, we did prep a lot for that match as well. We always prep a lot for all of our matches. But, you know, they were the better team that time. But coming into today, we actually really prepped even harder. And for that, you know, we sort of saw what we lacked on, and we sort of worked on what we needed to work on in order to defeat the Dallas Fuel. And this time, I think that was very effective. I think our practices, we sort of had our practices in a very effective way, and that's why hence we beat the Dallas Fuel and got our revenge today. And also, I want to talk a little bit about you specifically, Glister. You know, compared to yesterday, today you were popping off against the Dallas Fuel. I believe it was, you know, I personally think it was an absolute treat to see you on Widow on Dorado. What changes did you make from yesterday coming into today's match? 두 번째 질문은 이제 글리스터 선수에 관한 얘기를 좀 하고 싶어요. 어제와 좀 비해서 오늘은 정말 좀 다른 모습을, 굉장히 좋은 모습을 보여주셨는데 도라도에서 특히나 위도우를 제가 또 개인적으로 또 굉장히 너무나도 잘 봤던 것 같습니다. 아주 그냥 달라스를 그냥 알잖아요. 그냥 이렇게 딱딱 해가지고 이렇게 잘 하셨는데 어떻게 보면 좀 짧은 시간이잖아요. 하루 안에 좀 어떤 변화는 있었고 또 어떤 걸 좀 조정을 하셨는지 궁금하네요.
사실상 어제는 제가 좀 오랜만에 경기이기도 했고 이제 상대 선수에 대한 뭐 약간 어떤 플레이 어떻게 하는 위도를 어떻게 플레이하는지 스타일 같은 것도 아예 모르는 상태에서 했고 그래가지고 좀 약간 어제는 조금 힘들었던 것 같아요. 근데 가장 큰 거는 좀 약간 오랜만에 대회라 긴장을 했던 것 같고 저 회복이라기에는 그냥 원래 저는 약간 잘할 수 있다고 믿었었기 때문에 어제 그렇게 좀 안 좋은 모습을 보여줘도 이제 저는 원래 잘했다는 걸 저 스스로 저를 믿기 때문에 약간 오늘은 꼭 약간 긴장하지 말고 제가 할 수 있는 모든 거를 다 보여주고 나오자 해가지고 그게 제일 컸던 것 같아요. 딱히 뭐 따로 잘하기 위해서 준비한 건 없던 것 같아요.
So, you know, first of all, it's been a long time since I've played on stage, and definitely for our yesterday's match, I felt like, you know, I didn't really have a good understanding of how I wanted to play Widow against the match yesterday. So it was sort of like I had a sort of a difficulty in figuring out my own Widow playstyle. And also, I think the biggest reason why yesterday's play for myself wasn't that good was because it's been a long time since I played. I was actually pretty nervous. But at the same time, coming into today, I actually really always believe in myself. I believe that I'm a great player. I had this confidence. So coming into today, I really wanted to show that to everyone, show that to Shock fans, and also wanted to sort of redeem myself as a hit scan player for the San Francisco Shock. And, you know, I don't think I prepared anything specifically other than just having that belief that I could pull it off. I could actually perform well today against the Dallas Fuel. Alrighty, Glister, thank you so much for the interview, and again, congratulations on the win today, and see you around. 글리스터 선수 오늘 너무나도 수고 많으셨고요. 인터뷰 해주셔서 너무 감사드립니다.
감사합니다.
Alright, let's head back to the desk.
Thanks a lot, Glister, and of course also thank you, Danny, so much. Congratulations to the Shock and to everyone who got them as their winner in the pick'ems. Right, reinforce.
Woo!
Oh, sorry.
Okay, here's the worst part, okay? Here's the worst part. I had
Yeah.
3-1 shock, you know, in my predictions video that I make on my YouTube channel. I had 3-1 shock and I flipped to Dallas. Costa did the same thing, but he forgot to change his pick'ems and got 6